thoughts are on it. Whether he feels that maybe the boys lost a little bit of confidence. Rob Elliott's been out a long time, and he's had to be patient, and he gets his opportunity tonight. And he was unlucky, Rob Elliott. You know, he picked up the knee injury away on international duty, and up to that point he'd been playing well for us. So it's good to see him back, but it's interesting. I mean, the other ones, you always felt Clark was going to come back in. You know, once he was back training and fit. As I said earlier, he's been our best defender. He was always going to play. I always thought that Anita would come back in if he was fit. He didn't even make the bench at Ipswich. He had a little bit of a knock. Nice to see Atsu. You know, I think he's as well as Gouffran has done, to be fair, from his work rate point of view and the shift that he puts in. I just think Atsu gives you a little bit more going forward. And Mitrovic, as Razor has said, 4 of his 6 goals this season have come against Preston, so he obviously enjoys playing against them, and you hope that run continues tonight.
He made 5 changes Friday at Ipswich. He's made 5 changes
I didn't think he'd make that many changes, to be fair, but there you are. You know, we know he likes to change. He obviously wasn't happy with what he saw at Ipswich, and he rightly so, because it was a poor performance, you know, and we got exactly out of the game what we deserved, which was nothing, and he's reacted to that. So yeah, positive. Again, you would think that people would probably like to see 2 up top, but as I said earlier, I don't think that was ever going to happen. He's steadfast in his ways. He likes to stick with what he knows and the way he believes he wants to play. So, but yeah, I think there's some positives in there. As I say, Atsu on one side, Richie on the other. Just go for it. Let's go and win the game early. Kill it off early if we can.
Any thoughts on that team? 01912326565 is the phone number. You've still got a chance to get on air this evening. We'll take calls just beyond 7 o'clock this evening, so we'd love to hear from you. The time now, it's just gone 10 to 7.
Mid-mornings, Lisa Shaw.
Hospitalised with anorexia, Rebecca and Rachel formed a special friendship and vowed to help others.
You just have this kind of connection that you don't with anyone else.
There are so many times that I can remember like crying with laughter.
Yeah.
She sort of taught me how to laugh again. It was
wow.
And I think like that's one of my main memories of being in there. And when I came out, I thought I kind of need to help people. I need to get this out there.
Mid-mornings, Lisa Shaw.
Back tomorrow morning from 10.
BBC Newcastle, radio for the North East.
This is Total Sport on BBC Newcastle. John Anderson's at St James's Park. Martin Smith, former Sunderland winger, is alongside me here in the BBC Newcastle studio. And Chris, a Newcastle fan, is on the line. Hello, Chris.
Hi, fellas. All right.
What do you think of that team, Chris?
Well, I'm happy that he's made the changes, to be honest with you, because the last performance is absolutely shocking. But first, I want to take the words back a bit. What I said, it was the first time I came on a couple of weeks ago, for the first time in a while, and I said at the time Huddersfield were playing Derby, and I said if Huddersfield win that game, I can see us blowing it. Lucky enough, they didn't. They drew, so I'm glad I was right about that. I said if they don't, I said as long as Huddersfield don't win and they draw or lose, I said I believe we'll go either way. I said even though we got beat up Ipswich, but that was before I seen. I didn't realise Huddersfield were playing Fulham. If I'd looked at the fixture list before I was doing that little rant, I would have still been confident even if Huddersfield had beat Derby, because Fulham have everything to play for, and I believe on the day they're a class side. They've got full of young talent, and they deservedly beat us 3-0 when they were up here, you know. But even if we didn't get anything tonight, in the worst case scenario would be a point. It's just a matter of time. I do believe, I said it at the start of the season, I said it last season, I said we're a powerhouse and we're too good for the championship. And I was listening to this before, where one of the callers or texts had come in and said we lost 12 games this season. Is that right? 12 games?
I think it's 12 in the championship, yeah. Is that correct, Ando? That stat off the top of your head? Or Razor? I don't know.
10 league games.
10 league games.
Yeah. So 10 league games, and we're still gonna go up, you know. But back to the point about the side tonight. I think if you look on the fact that the keeper, he's changed, hasn't he? Is that right? He's changed Elliott. He's put Elliott.
Yeah, Elliott's back in. Yeah.
I liked Elliott. I thought he done class when he came on the scene anyway, and he was very unlucky. He had a bad injury. So I don't think it's. I think he must have seen something with Darlow. He must have seen that there was a mistake in him. His confidence wasn't right, so he's put Elliott in because he knows he's reliable. He knows he can do a job. He's experienced, so I haven't got any problems with that at all. Starting with Mitrovic up front, I put 3-0 tonight. Mitrovic to score first. I can just see a 3-0 scoreline. I do think we'll win convincingly tonight.
Yeah,
especially when you look at Preston's back line.
Yeah,
they look weak as, you know. So I think we'll exploit that, and I think we'll win comfortably. And like I say, it's a matter of time.
Yeah, look at when you look at that Preston side, you'd have to think that they've got to go and they've got to win this game and win it comfortably. They've got problems. As far as Elliott's concerned, very rarely do managers change goalkeepers. So, yeah, he obviously feels that Darlow needs to be taken out of the firing line for a little bit. He obviously wasn't impressed with what he's seen at Ipswich. And again, I'm with you. I've got no problem with Rob Elliott coming in. I think prior to the injury, I think he did absolutely nothing wrong for us. I think he was excellent.
I think it's evident though, John, that Dwight Gill, you know, the absence of Dwight Gill is a massive factor. 20 odd goals, 38 goals, you know, out of Newcastle wouldn't be where they are now, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's going to catch up. He had the backup in Mitrovic. He had Perez to score chip-in with goals, but that was only going to work for 1 or 2 games here and there, like it has done. It's like it has worked. But the fact that as soon as you've got a bad injury of one of your main players, you know, it's only going to catch up with you, isn't it?
Yeah, look, you can't afford to lose your better players, especially somebody who sticks the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. You know, and his goals have been huge for us this season. We've been fortunate that all of a sudden Richie's chipped in with goals as well. But you can't afford to lose somebody who sticks the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. When you look at the games that he's played and the goals that he scored, you know, he's been a main man for us. You think
you could it next season at
well, time will tell. You know, time will tell.
Would you go in and buy? Asking you though, would you go in and buy like a £50 million number 9? Like Benitez has had like a top player like Torres at Liverpool, he's had Higuain at Napoli.
Yeah, well, you see that's the thing. If you're going to go and you're going to get somebody who you know can score goals at Premier League level, they're not going to come cheaply. You know, you're going to have to go and you're going to have to spend big money on them, because these are the boys that cost all the money. And now whether he'll be able to go and spend that type of money on. I would like to be
a fly on the wall in there when he asks for that money. Do you know what I mean?
We'll try and get him to do it live on Total Sport, maybe.
Yeah, you'd like to be under the desk that day, all right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting summer.
And these are the players that I want, by the way.
Yes, exactly. Here's the list. Chris, thanks very much indeed for coming on this evening. Chat to Eddie in a minute. We've got unfinished business though, in that we have to pick performance of the weekend, don't we? And of course no Newcastle or Sunderland to consider over the weekend. So what else then? Well, Gates had a convincing win. Jamal Fifield got the pick of their goals. Could be him, I suppose. Ramon Fletcher top scored for the Eagles in wins against Leicester and Sheffield. Berwick Speedway didn't go very well again. They lost again. What about Newcastle Diamonds? They won. So I don't know if there was anybody that did well there. Perhaps Steve Worrell or Robert Lambert both scored a lot of points. What about Ali Dixon? First Brit across the line at the London Marathon, qualified for the World Championships.
Brilliant.
It's got to be here, hasn't it?
Yeah, got to be.
I reckon.
Yeah.
Ando?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Anyone else you want to throw into the mix?
No.
No?
No.
No one else you've thought of?
No.
OK. Ali Dixon then. Fair enough.
Well done, Ali.
Martin, we'll let you go.
Thank you.
Because it's Newcastle all the way. Do you want to give a prediction for the Newcastle game tonight?
I think I'm off to a dark room with my bottle of whiskey for totally different reasons to everybody else.
Do you want the latest from the
see you, Smitty.
Indian Premier League, Smitty?
Enjoy your night.
Before you go. Because you wanted Pune Supergiants to win.
Yeah.
Well, 5 balls remaining, 17 runs needed for the Mumbai Indians, 4 wickets remaining.
Oh, it's
going down to the wire.
It's game on.
You can stay here if you want and watch it updating on the screen. In the meantime, we'll turn our attentions back to building up to the Newcastle game this evening. I think probably, Razor, if you're there, it's worth reminding people what the Newcastle team is this evening, because a couple of interesting choices.
Yes, 5 changes. Rob Elliott starts in goal. It's his first Newcastle appearance since the 20th of March last year. It's his 50th for the club in all. Vernon Anita comes in right back in place of DeAndre Yedlin. Jamal Lascelles keeps his place in central defence, but he will be partnered by the returning Kieran Clark, who has recovered from that knee injury that kept him out for 6 weeks. Paul Dummett at left back. In central midfield again, John Joe Shelvey and Isaac Hayden. Matt Ritchie on the right-hand side, Christian Atsu on the left. Ayoze Perez comes into the starting 11 and he plays behind Alexander Mitrovic, who also comes into the team. Carl Darlow, DeAndre Yedlin, Chancellor Mbemba, Jan Gouffran, Jack Colback, Mo Diarmi and Daryl Murphy are the substitutes.
Eddie, what do you think of that then?
Well, I would never believe it if you didn't make any changes.
No, he likes to make a change or two, doesn't he?
Basically, more changes than Buckingham Palace.
Yeah, he does like to tinker about. He obviously wasn't too happy with what he's seen at Ipswich, and rightly so.
I mean, but the thing is, Johnny still picked Lascelles.
Yeah, and it's, I suppose, the fact that he made him skipper. You know, he feels that he's got to stand by his skipper, I suppose, to a degree.
He's not good enough to be captain, John.
Well, yeah, I mean, his
I would make Matt Ritchie captain.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens next year. It'll be interesting to see who his skipper is. I'd be very, very surprised if Lascelles is captain next season. I mean, people might have different views on that, but I would be very surprised if Lascelles is skipper next year.
No, early on when you were talking about the goalkeepers.
Yeah.
Do you think Elliott's is better than Tim Krul? He's new Tim Krul, John.
I have to admit, when Tim Krul first broke into the side, he was exceptional.
He was great. Well, I used to talk to the lad at my training ground. He's a smashing lad.
Yeah, he's a good lad.
He loves Newcastle, you know.
Yeah, but I have my doubts whether Tim Krul will be here next season.
Looks like he's still we have road now, like, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously back in Holland playing at this moment in time.
Antwerp.
Yeah, I would be surprised if he's here next year. You know, I know that he had the injury and they sent him out on loan to get first team.
But he had trouble with injuries, didn't he? And got some injuries,
Yeah, he had some bad. It was a bad injury that he had, similar to Rob Elliott. But you know, I think they're top heavy with goalkeepers now, to be quite honest. You know, they've got young Woodman who's up in Scotland at this moment in time. He's
a smashing keeper, John.
Yeah, he looks like he's going to develop into a top keeper as well. So you know. They've got plenty of keepers.
His dad told me when he was in Newcastle. He told me, he says, my Freddie has got something that I never had. It was good pair of hands. That's what he said, honestly.
Well, it helps if you're a goalkeeper to have a good pair of hands, I suppose.
No, I mean, you get some goalkeepers know how to use their hands, and some goalkeepers don't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he had a good coach in his dad. I mean, his dad was a keeper and played at Charlton and one thing and another. So.
I mean, Darlow is a prime example. He gets the punch ball and he misses it.
Yeah,
he panics when he comes in.
Yeah, but he'll be disappointed tonight, the fact that he's been left out. You know, just when you think that you're going to guarantee promotion, well, hopefully guarantee promotion tonight, and he's not going to be there. He's got to settle for a place on the bench. But okay, it's part and parcel, I suppose. You know, Benitez picks a side that he feels is going to be capable of going and getting a result. It'd be interesting to know other people's views on whether they feel Darlow's hard done by or not, but there you go, he's picked it, he's brought Rob Elliott back, and that's it.
Eddie, thank you very much indeed for your contribution this evening. We'll hear from one more Newcastle fan as we build up to a 7:45 kick-off this evening. It's Jim who's on the line. Hello, Jim.
Hi there.
Hey, Jim.
Firstly, can I say I am a season ticket holder, but unfortunately I won't be at the game tonight. Had a fall early in the day in South Shields Marketplace, and I'd like to express my deep thanks to the people who helped me, who couldn't have been kinder or more helpful. They lifted me to my feet, and my head was bleeding, and this man and this lady were very kind, and they helped stem the bleeding until the ambulance arrived.
Well, I hope you're well on the way to recovery now, Jim, and well done to those people that helped you, so yes.
Yes, that's right. I'll be interested in the game tonight. I'm delighted to see Rob Elliott back. I thought he was a smashing keeper and did very well for us. And I just hope he can pick up where he began. I've already discussed Perez with you, John.
Yes.
I always think that there's a smashing player in there somewhere, but you have difficulty finding him at times.
Yeah.
But he did score a good goal at Brighton, mind. So
yeah, he did. Yeah, it was a good finish. It was a good finish.
Yes, that's right. I mean, Anita or Yedlin. I mean, I can't make my mind up, to be honest. But is Yedlin? Sorry, is it Anita away at the end of the season? Is his contract?
His contract's up at the end of the season. We haven't heard anything about contract negotiations and whether he's been offered a new deal or whatnot. I think people look at Yedlin and think he's an awful lot quicker than Anita. There's no doubt about that. He likes to get forward a bit more. But I like Anita. I think Anita's a clever footballer. I think he's a good footballer. Uses the ball well. He picks his moments to get forward.
Yeah.
Where Yedlin wants to be on his bike all the time. So it'll be the Anita situation contract-wise. We don't know. I think it's one of those where you watch this space and see what happens, whether they decide to offer him a contract or not.
That's right. Yeah, I know that Queen's Park Rangers, that they targeted Yedlin because they knew he liked to get up, and the equalising goal came from the left wing.
I mean, they knew that he likes to bomb on, so every time they got it, they just kept knocking it in behind the space that he left. And it worked for them. It did work for them because obviously they drew here and they got a result out of it. But look, I would have no problems with either of them, to be quite honest. I think they both do a job, different type of players. I think Anita gives you an awful lot more going forward, but I think Anita, Yedlin gives you more going forward. I think Anita's a little bit steadier. I think he's a little bit more of a steadier player. But from an offensive point of view, from getting forward, Yedlin does give you that because he's got the pace to be able to get beyond people.
Yes, that's true. And what about Atsu, John?
Yeah.
Are Newcastle going to make any effort to sign him?
Well, again, he obviously he's on loan and he hasn't played a great deal of football since he's been here. He's one or two substitute appearances, started the odd game here and there. He obviously started at Ipswich and he keeps his place tonight. But again, it'll be interesting to see if they try and make that deal permanent. I would have to say, I would have my doubts about that. Again, you would want to know how much Chelsea would want for him, but I would have my doubts whether they would want to try and make that a permanent deal or not.
I quite agree. We need to spend a significant amount of money, but we need to spend it on the right players.
Yes,
there's no point in getting another Slovan in.
Yeah, I agree totally, Jim. I think it's we've got to spend money, but you've got to spend it wisely. You've got to get the right type of players in. You've got to get the right people in. I'm sure they've already discussed it. I'm sure he knows the type of players that he wants to get in. I'm sure he knows the players he would like to get in. But wanting them is one thing. Actually getting them here, that's something completely different.
Jim, thank you very much for
Cheers, Jim.
phoning.
Hope you're okay.
BBC Newcastle. Yes, all the best with your recovery. Thanks very much to Simon Pride and Martin Smith as well for Total Sport. They'll be back tomorrow at 5:30 alongside John Anderson when we may be reacting to Newcastle United winning promotion to the Premier League. They will be a top-flight club again if they beat Preston North End here at St James's Park this evening. That's the only result that can secure promotion for Newcastle tonight. A draw means that promotion could be confirmed tomorrow, but only if Huddersfield fail to win their game in hand at Wolves. It could go down to Friday night's match at Cardiff. It could even go down to the final day of the season when Newcastle host Barnsley, but hopefully there won't be any final day drama and Newcastle can get the job done tonight by beating Simon Grayson's Preston North End, who come to Tyneside on a run of 3 straight championship defeats and in 11th spot in the table. You'll hear live commentary as always on BBC Newcastle. It's a 7:45 kickoff, and here is the Newcastle United starting 11. It shows 5 changes from the team that lined up against Ipswich at Portman Road a week ago. Rob Elliott starts in goal in place of Carl Darlow. Vernon Anita is in at right back. Jamal Lascelles plays at centre-half alongside the returning Kieran Clark, who has missed 6 matches with a medial knee ligament injury. Paul Dummett at left back. John Joe Shelvey and Isaac Hayden in central midfield. Matt Ritchie on the right. Ayose Perez in the hole. Christian Atsu on the left. And Alexander Mitrovic starts in attack. The Newcastle bench is Carl Darlow, DeAndre Yedlin, Chancellor Mbemba, Johan Gouffran, Mo Diarmi, Jack Colback and Daryl Murphy. And 5 changes at Ipswich last week. Ando surprised us, and I suppose 5 changes again here have surprised us once more. But I suppose you can understand 4 of them. But the goalkeeping one, as we've been discussing on BBC Newcastle, is interesting because, as you said a few minutes ago, it's not a position managers like to change. And Rob Elliott has really come from nowhere, having been on the bench for 2 or 3 months, to being given a start in Newcastle's biggest match of the season.
Yeah, you know, I think that's come as a bit of a shock. I think people will be looking at that and think, oof. But you would say that Darlow wasn't over convincing at Ipswich. I thought his kicking was poor. I thought his kicking was really poor. Now, whether they feel that he's lost a little bit of confidence, a little bit of self-belief, and they're just taking him out, I've got no problems with Rob Elliott coming in, because the times he's played, I don't think he's ever let us down. I think he was unlucky with his injury. You know, I think he was just establishing himself in the side here when he picked that injury up. So I got no problem with him coming into the side at all. I always thought Anita would come back in. And again, Clark, we spoke about Clark. You know, if Clark was fit, he was always going to play because he's been our best defender, best centre-back this season. Nice to see Atsu keeping his place. I think, you know, he just gives you a bit more going forward than Gouffran. And Mitrovic up top, because of his record against Preston this season, 4 goals in the 2 games, you always felt that he was going to get the nod, you know, because a little bit superstitious when it comes to things like that, managers. So yeah, you know, I have to say I didn't think he'd make 5 changes, but there you go.
Let's have a look at Preston, the visitors tonight. Chris Maxwell in goal, who has played a lot of non-league football for Wrexham and Cambridge, joined from Fleetwood last summer on a free transfer. At right back for Preston tonight, a player on loan from Everton, Tyus Browning, who is a 22-year-old, also got a little bit of experience of league football with Wigan. Then it's centre-half Andy Boyle, who made his Ireland debut last month as a substitute in the defeat by Iceland. He arrived at Preston in January from Dundalk. Preston are his first club outside of Ireland, and he is partnered by Paul Huntington, now 29 years of age. Came through Newcastle's academy, made his debut in 2006. Only 16 appearances for Newcastle before joining Leeds. He scored once for United, Paul Huntington. It was in a 3-2 victory at Spurs, and it was an equalising goal. There were a few good goals in that match, but that was his one and only goal for Newcastle. Paul Huntington, Carlisle-born, been at Preston now for 5 years. And at left back, they've got a few injuries to defenders, Preston. So Tommy Spur, a left back who previously with Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday, comes into the team. Then in midfield, some attacking options for Preston. On the right-hand side, Tom Barkhuizen, who came from Morecambe at the start of January, having signed a pre-contract agreement with Preston. He's been in fantastic form for them, got 6 goals in that time, and was the Championship Player of the Month for March. Aidan McGeady on the other side, Ando, someone you'll have seen a lot of for Ireland. Nearly 90 caps for his country. He's on loan from Everton as well, the former Celtic player, somebody who will definitely carry a threat. In central midfield, Alan Brown, who was sent off here in the EFL Cup tie at the end of October. Paul Gallagher, formerly of Leicester and Blackburn, and scored a winning goal at St James's Park for Blackburn in December 2003. It had more than a little hint of handball about it, but he has personal success at St James's Park previously in his career. And Daniel Johnson, born in Jamaica, formerly of Aston Villa's academy. And up front, a northeast lad, Jordan Hugel from Teesside, has played Northern League football, then went to the Glen Hoddle Football Academy in Spain, earned a move to Port Vale. He had a prolific spell at Gateshead a few seasons ago when they got to Wembley, scored 5 in 7 at National League level, and then moved on to Preston 3 years ago. He's their top scorer with 12 goals. The Preston bench, Anders Lindegaard, formerly of Manchester United, the goalkeeper. Another former Manchester United player, Marnik Vermael, Belgian right back. Daryl Horgan, who, like the defender Andy Boyle, came from Dundalk in January. Jermaine Beckford, the striker, who has had a number of clubs in the Football League, now 33 years of age. Ben Pringle, Stevie May, a Scottish international striker, and Callum Robinson, who has started regularly this season, scored 11 goals, but finds himself among the replacements tonight. Looking at the Preston team, and it is, of course, about what Newcastle do, and a win seals promotion, but McGeady and Barkhuizen probably the biggest threats.
Yeah, McGeady on his day. Just never know what you're going to get out of him, though. Blows very hot and cold. But he's got ability. You know, Paul Gallagher's a good player. Good from set pieces as well. Barkhuizen, as you say, Jordan Hugel scored a few goals for them as well. He's got a little bit of a physical presence about him as well, Hugel. But you look at it and you just think, you got to be beating this side. You know, not being disrespectful to Preston, but you just think, you look at what's on the other team sheet and you think that Newcastle should have far too much fun.
7:45 kickoff at St James's Park. You'll hear the whole 90 minutes uninterrupted here on BBC Newcastle. 5 changes for United: Rob Elliott, Vernon Anita, Kieran Clark, Ayoze Perez and Alexander Mitrovic all come into the team. It's not quite a sellout. There are a limited number of tickets still on general sale, but I've been out and about around the ground and seeing what some of the supporters who are coming into the stadium tonight think of Newcastle's chances of securing promotion this evening.
They should do, yeah. Let's face it, they've had many a chance to be where they want to be, and Brighton have turned them over, and that's a bit of a worry. It'll be tense, but I'm sure they'll do it.
Are you a little bit disappointed that it's taken this long, given the lead Newcastle had at the top?
No, not at all. It's just the way football goes. You know, it's a big price to come to Newcastle and turn them over and go away with 3 points.
So, firstly, where have you come from?
Sweden.
And how long have you been supporting Newcastle?
Oh, since I was 6 years old, so it's like 24 years old.
How many times have you been here to St James's Park?
St James is the 3rd time, but it's the 5th time I've seen the team. So.
And if Newcastle win tonight, they will be promoted. Do you expect them to get the result they need?
Yeah, absolutely. Last time I was watching them, this was promoted from the Queen's Park.
I'm very confident. I think tonight we'll see maybe Mitrovic come show his place, yeah. And Richie.
We've beaten them twice before, so hoping for the best.
Obviously, Newcastle have had to wait a little while to confirm promotion. Are you a bit disappointed that Brighton have got there first and they may win the title?
No, not at all. I think the main focus is promotion. I like Chris Hughton, he's a great manager, and I think they've been a really good team this season, so congratulations to them.
Some of the thoughts of some supporters who were outside St James's Park a little earlier. Fair amount of confidence among the fans that we heard from there, Ando, and really the odds are stacked in Newcastle's favour. A win tonight, but even if they don't win, they still have some room for error because Huddersfield could slip up, but even so, Newcastle still have 2 further matches to play, so you know, you've always felt that it's a question of when, not if.
Yeah, I've always felt that we, I've said all along that we would get promoted. I think we'll do it tonight. I think we'll beat Preston tonight. I really do. I said earlier, you look at that, you look at the two sides, and then, but if you can't beat this Preston side, then you think, well, where are we going? We really should be beating Preston here tonight, and not just beating them, but beating them comfortably as well. It should be. We've beaten them already twice this season. We went to Deepdale, and to be fair, they put us under an awful lot of pressure. They made life difficult for us. And then, of course, the cup game here. Although you don't read a lot into that cup game because of it, they made 11 changes or what have you. We made a lot of changes that night as well. But we should really be beating this Preston side.
Let's hear now on BBC Newcastle from Isaac Hayden. He says United have to move on from their 3-1 defeat by Ipswich.
Yeah, obviously it's disappointing. Nobody was happy after the game with the way that we played and the way that the outcome was, but it's done now. We can't be focusing on any games from the past. We've got 3 big games coming up, and the most important one's Monday night, and that's the one that we're focusing on and preparing for, and that's the one that we have to win.
And I suppose as players you'll be looking to get yourselves back to the level that you played at against Leeds when everything was really fantastic, and a reminder of just how good you can be, and you are.
Yeah, I mean, the Leeds game was obviously one of the best games we've played this season in terms of chances created and intensity of our play, and that's exactly the way we're going to have to play against Preston. Obviously Preston aren't an easy team, we know that. They're going to come with the idea of obviously trying to do whatever their game plan might be, but it's up to us to execute our game plan and make sure that we get the 3 points.
How much of this stage of the season is mental and about the psychology of dealing with the pressure and the expectation and being on the verge of achieving your objective of promotion?
Yeah, you could say it's a mental thing, but I think that we've got a lot of big players and big characters in this squad that have been there and done it before, even at Premier League level. So I think that in terms of pressure-wise, I don't think we should feel too much pressure. We've got a good squad, we've got the best manager, and the best fans. So for me, everything's there. The platform's there for us. We just need to take it into Monday and perform as well as we can do.
How difficult is it not to pay attention to what's going on beneath you? Because as much as you can try to ignore it, people will want to talk to you about it. It will be everywhere in the news, and you can't really, I suppose, avoid those other results because you know the impact they can have on you.
Yeah, obviously there's going to be people talking about it, fans talking about it, whatever it may be. Obviously Huddersfield and Reading play on Saturday and we play on Monday, but it doesn't matter about Huddersfield or Reading or even Brighton, whatever it is. It doesn't matter about any other teams, because as long as we do our job and we perform to our best on Monday, and obviously the next games after that, then it doesn't take every other team out of the equation. We do our job, we get promoted. It's as simple as that.
What's been the response of the players in training this week? Have you been positive and upbeat and excited about what you can do on Monday?
Yeah, I mean, it's another opportunity to play football. Everyone wants to be playing on the big stage and in front of Sky and playing in big games that actually matter. Any professional footballer that doesn't want to play in those games shouldn't be playing. So for me, everyone's just been on the training pitch, positive and trying to do the right things, trying to learn what the manager wants from us, especially for Monday's game, and just trying to improve. I come in every day, no matter whether we win, lose or draw, to try and improve as a player, and that's what we've been doing on the training pitch, and hopefully we'll take that into Monday.
And I guess this was why you came here, wasn't it? You wanted to be in this position, you wanted the excitement and the potential of having this kind of success. So in that sense, there's nothing to be afraid of, because this is what you were looking for.
No, I mean, I know I'm a young player, but I want to be the best player I can be, and I want to play in big matches and have my part to play in big parts of histories of football clubs, and I've been lucky enough to get the opportunity to come to a massive football club like Newcastle United, and with the trust of and to earn the trust of a manager of the calibre of Rafa Benitez is fantastic, and this is what any young player should want. You want to be playing in big games, in big atmospheres, and with big chances to obviously win things or get promotions, whatever it may be, and we've got an opportunity to do that. So I'm just excited more than nervous or anxious. It's an exciting time, and it's just up to us to perform.
And finally, you talked about the atmosphere there. It was really good in the home match against Leeds. How important that you have that again against Preston, whether or not you can achieve promotion on Monday, but just to have the fans behind you like they always are at home, really trying to give the players that bit extra.
Yeah, the fans have been incredible this season. You know, they've travelled home and away, whether it's at home, or away. It's been fantastic, and they've been sell-out crowds away from home, things like that. And Monday night will be no different. And whether I'm starting, whether I'm on the bench, whatever it may be, I'll be there giving 110%. If I get the opportunity to play, it'll be 110% as I always do. If I don't, then I don't. But I'll be there supporting, doing whatever I can and trying to do the best that I can for the club.
BBC Newcastle Stories.
I never thought I'd see the day when Mo Farah, Haile Gebrselassie and Kenenisa Bekele are running together past Gateshead Stadium. Probably should have resigned that day, actually. Should have retired then.
His friend showed us where he was. He was screaming, me head.
Music. Life. Radio for the North East.
It'll be a cross by Ritchie. Sends it all the way around the back. Mitrovic has scored. It's as simple as you like. But the minute it left the boot of Matt Ritchie, you saw Alexander Mitrovic peeling round the back, and he's got the easiest job in the world. Just to head across and head beyond Anders Lindegaard. Now, what looked like an elbow, it's a red card. It's a red card for Alan Brown. Ritchie on halfway to find Diame. Ball slips to it, Mitrovic. Mitrovic with Atsu close to him. Coming onto it, Diame! Well, Mohamed Diame, he's just put his right foot through it, and it is absolutely ripped into the bottom corner. Shelvey sets it on its way, or it's a great ball for Mitrovic. Sets it up, Ritchie coming onto it, thought about hitting it, then goes down. It's a penalty kick. Yeah, it is definitely a penalty kick. Ritchie's going to take it, and Matt Ritchie scores. Roof of the net job. Real good penalty. Ball into the box. On his chest, Mitrovic leaves the player down. Now score. Now that is a very good goal. Now that is a very good goal by a centre forward. Newcastle, who have kept a clean sheet today, now going for Knapp. Going Knapp for 5. Diame, yes! Oh, what a goal. Diame, what a goal. Diame from distance. And all he's done there is he's caught the goalkeeper completely unawares. Here is Shelvey with the corner kick. It's nodded away from goal. Perez scores! Jose Perez. Newcastle go to half a dozen.
We knew that could be a tough game, but we started well. We scored the goal after the sending off, make a big difference for them. But we did what we have to do, play well, score goals, and give our fans something to enjoy.
Live from St James's Park.
BBC Newcastle, radio for the North East.
And that was Newcastle's 6-0 win over Preston here in the EFL Cup at the end of October, described by Mick Lowes. Fairly comfortable scoreline.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the end. Of course, they had a man sent off early on, but Mohamed Diame got his first Newcastle goals that night. It was, well, all in all, a great evening. Couldn't really have gone any better.
No, couldn't. No, as I say, we made a lot of changes that night. They made a lot of changes. The fact that they got the boys sent off, you know, it didn't help their situation, but it was an emphatic win. It really was. But you'd settle for the same sort of scoreline tonight.
Yeah.
You know, if you could do that, repeat that tonight, it'd be absolutely wonderful.
They went to Preston a few days later at Deepdale and won 2-1 in the league. Obviously, a different kind of test.
Yeah, and that was a more difficult game. To be fair to Preston, I thought they played quite well on the day. They put us under a lot of pressure, but we managed to come out the other side of that. But it's a depleted Preston side tonight. You know, they've got injury problems. They've got defenders out. So can we make it a hat-trick? Yeah, most definitely. A hat-trick of wins against Preston. I don't see any reason in the world why we shouldn't.
Here's a reminder of the Newcastle United starting 11 tonight. Rob Elliott is in goal, his first appearance in over a year. Vernon Anita comes in at right full-back. Kieran Clark is back at centre-half alongside Jamal Lascelles and Paul Dummett at left-back. Jonjo Shelvey and Isaac Hayden in central midfield. Matt Ritchie on the right-hand side, Christian Atsu on the left. Ayoze Perez starts in the hole behind Alexander Mitrovic, who comes in to the team. And the bench is Carl Darlow, DeAndre Yedlin, Chancellor Mbemba, Jan Gouffran, Jack Colback, Mo Diarmi and Daryl Murphy. Newcastle's players just heading back down the tunnel after completing their warm-up. Still the Preston team and substitutes being put through their paces by their coaching staff. We've talked obviously a lot about Jamal Lascelles in the last week, given the way the match at Ipswich went, and that in fact he didn't have a particularly comfortable afternoon. How much has he missed playing alongside somebody like Kieran Clark, who is an experienced international footballer, who has done very well in this league this season, made a difference to Newcastle's team when he's played, and I think that's been highlighted even more by how much they've missed him while he's been injured. Do you think Clark helps Lascelles settle down and in some ways makes Lascelles a more assured player?
You would have to say possibly yes, because since Clark's been out of the side, you would say that Lascelles' form has dipped. He hasn't been playing particularly well. Now, whether that's down to the fact that he's missed Clark, who has been our best defender this season, best centre-back by a long way. You know, and there's no doubt that since he's been out of the side, our form has dipped, our results have dipped as well. So it's good to have him back. He's probably a reassuring presence alongside Lascelles. Yeah, so I would think Lascelles is, yeah, you'd have to say, yeah, he has missed them because his form dipped when Clark hasn't been there.
And Rafa Benitez has chopped and changed because Mbemba came in, perhaps surprisingly, for a couple of matches. Grant Hanley's been tried as well, and now he's brought back the man who, like you say, has performed better than any other centre-half this season. So with Kieran Clark out, Rafa's looked for an alternative, and he hasn't been able to find a solution.
He obviously doesn't trust Mbemba. He obviously doesn't trust Hanley. He's obviously got faith in Lascelles because he made him a skipper and one thing and another. But Clark's been head and shoulders the best defender this season. There's no doubt he's been a big loss and a big miss when he hasn't been there. I think the results prove that as well. You know, since he's been out of the team, performances have dropped, results have dropped. So he has been a miss. But it's good to have him back, and I think once he was fit, he was always going to come straight back into the team. You know, he was always going to be one of the first names on the team sheet.
BBC Newcastle radio for the North East. Kick-off just a little over 10 minutes away. Newcastle United against Preston North End. Remember, 3 points will confirm Newcastle's promotion. A draw means the wait will go on a little longer. It could be decided tomorrow, but only if Huddersfield fail to win their game in hand at Wolves. Reading are 6 points behind Newcastle, but with a vastly inferior goal difference. It may well be decided on goal difference, but Newcastle can decide it for themselves mathematically by winning here against Preston North End this evening. It's a freezing cold night on Tyneside at 3 degrees at the moment. The sun is setting. We've had wind, we've had rain, we've had sunshine this afternoon, variable weather. The one thing that's been consistent is the fact that it's been cold. So if you're still listening to us in the car just approaching St James's Park, bring your hat, your scarf, your gloves, plenty of layers, because it's very, very cold. Not the kind of weather you expect for this time of the year or this time of the football season, right at the end of April. Only 3 matches to go. The final 2 will be games with nothing riding on them as far as promotion is concerned if Newcastle win tonight. But if they win tonight, they can still pip Brighton to the title. They could actually still do it if they get a draw tonight, but then they would only be able to win the league on goal difference. But it's funny, isn't it, Ando, that yes, we're assuming Newcastle will get promoted and they will win this evening, but all the disappointment from the fact they've gone from first with a lead of a few points over Brighton in the chasing pack to second, 7 points adrift of Chris Hughton's team. If they win their final 3 games or get 7 points, they can still be champions.
Yeah, can still win the league. I mean, obviously, you need results to go our way. Of course you do. We need to go and win the last 3. You need Brighton to then lose games. Of course it would be nice to win the league. Of course it was. You would love to go up as champions. You know, nobody ever remembers who finishes runners up. So it would be nice to win the league. Do I see it happening? You never know. You never know. You know, I think Brighton achieved what they wanted to achieve by getting promotion. Have they still got the fire in their belly to be champions? I suppose time will tell. You know, they've got 2 games left. I think they've got 2 games left. But you know, you win tonight, and then you could put pressure on them again by winning a Cardiff on Friday night, and then all of a sudden there's a little bit of pressure on Brighton. It'd be interesting to see whether they can handle it or not. The one thing I would say about Brighton is that they bounce back very well from losing to us. You know, when we beat them in the last minute, I think the reaction after that was excellent. You know, they went on a run of winning games. Got them back top of the table, and fair play to Chris Hughton. He's done an absolutely smashing job there, and he's a real good guy.
Just before we hear from Rafa Benitez on BBC Newcastle, just want to talk about the referee. Andrew Madley is the man in the middle tonight. Born in Huddersfield, brother of Bobby Madley, who Newcastle have had a few times in recent seasons, most recently at Brighton. A match between the top 2 at the time. Newcastle won it, but he gave what some felt was a soft penalty for Brighton. But a referee who, to be fair, hasn't gone on record with the team he supports. It is assumed by some to be Huddersfield because that's where he's born and his brother is a fan. But Andrew Madley, the man in the middle tonight, refereed the 4-1 win over Reading here in August and the 2-2 draw with Norwich. He also took charge of the 6-0 cup win over Preston. Any concern, any worry about the referee of the EFL? Maybe put the referee in a difficult position given his association with Huddersfield by giving him this match tonight?
No, I don't think so. Look at as you say, he refereed the 6-0 game. He sent the boy off. You know, I've got no problem with him being referee. You know, he's got to go and he's got to do the job to the best of his ability. The one thing you would say is that the majority of referees that we've seen in this division have been poor. You know, they've been all much of a muchness. They've all been very, very mediocre. Some of the decisions they make and some of the decisions they don't make, you've got to question. But look, he's got to go and he's got to do the job. I think people are reading a little bit too much into it. The fact that he's from Huddersfield or whatnot. I mean, what can he do? You know, what can he do? You know, if you go and you do the job properly and you score goals, there's not a great deal he can do about it.
Newcastle team: Elliott, Anita, Lascelles, Clark and Dummett, Shelvey and Hayden, Ritchie, Perez, Atsu and Mitrovic up top. 5 changes from last Monday. For Rafa Benitez, there's no point dwelling on the disappointment of the defeat by Ipswich.
I think that everybody was upset after the game, so you don't like to lose, and you don't like to lose in this way. But the only thing that you can do is just move forward and start thinking about what can you improve for the future. In this case, we go back to Leeds and our performance against Leeds, the way that we were playing, the chances that we were creating, and the spirit of the team, and then try to replicate that against Preston. So our idea is to prepare the game properly. As always we try, but in this case, with the fans behind, with so many people cheering and supporting the team, I think that we will see a team with the intensity, with the commitment that we have seen during majority of the games and hopefully playing well and creating chances and scoring goals.
Because the team was so good against Leeds and did almost everything right, were you left confused and almost wondering why things went so wrong against Ipswich just so soon after?
To be fair, we knew for some players just 3 days and going away maybe it could be difficult to be 100% recovered in terms of physicality. Then when things are going wrong and you have players that maybe they are not at their best level, then you start suffering. Then after you see players that they were coming back from injuries and still they were not at the level that also we were expecting. So too many things against our mistakes, they put us under pressure. And sometimes people don't realize that when you fight for being at the middle of the table, every result could be fine, a draw could be fine. When you fight for being at the top of the table and promote and win the title or whatever, every mistake is really important, and the way that they react, the players, is also important. We talk about the pressure, but it's a big difference when you have to be first or you have to be second, or when you have to be in the middle of the table. And for some teams to go away to concede a goal means nothing. For us, sometimes it's a problem, and then we score our goal, and when everything seems that was going right, we made another mistake and we concede another goal. So it's not an excuse, it's just the reality. Some players, they have to have the experience to manage. And when I was talking, for example, about Brighton, they have been 5 years playing at this level. And you can argue that it's a good team, bad team, better team, Premier League team, Championship team, whatever, but at this level. They were competing for going up, for being in the Premier League for 5 years. They were so close that they have played with experience. If you analyze the squad, it's a squad with experience in the division and good players that can make the difference, strong players, very competitive, and that is the reason why they are at the top of the table and they promoted. And then congratulations to them and to Chris, because they did really well. But that is the reality. When I was signing, people was talking about, oh, the championship is so difficult. Rafa, maybe he doesn't know this. And now that we are second with 85 points, they said, yeah, but still he could do this, he could do that. So listen, we are, I think, doing really well, and we have made mistakes for sure. But if you analyze everything overall, I think it's at the moment is a good season.
BBC Newcastle, official radio station of the Hexham Book Festival.
Denise Welsh talks to me, Anna Foster, on what it takes for a seemingly happily married woman to start her life all over again.
Meet Luke Carlton, working undercover for the British Intelligence Service. The BBC security correspondent Frank Gardner reveals his fictional character to me, Jonathan Morell.
The Age of Bowie is part love letter, part biography and part design for life. Writer Paul Morley talks about the wonderful world of the Thin White Duke with me, Steve Drayton.
The authors speak to BBC Newcastle at the Hexham Book Festival. Starts this Friday.
North East Sport.
Matthew Raisbeck and black and white legend John Anderson.
BBC Newcastle, radio for the North East.
And perfect timing, because here come the two teams. Jamal Lascelles with a mascot leads out Newcastle United. Paul Gallagher leads out Preston North End, to warm applause from all four sides of St James's Park. A black and white flag with the club crest on being waved in each D on the pitch, and the big surfer flag with the magpie on, being passed from left to right as we look along the Gallagher end. It's a huge night for Newcastle United. It's their biggest match of the season. It's one that will potentially define their future. And Ando, it would be great to do it tonight, and for them to do it in style as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, as I said earlier, I think they'll win tonight. It'd be nice to do it with a swagger, of course it would. Nice to do it with a little bit of style, go and win it comfortably. Go and win it well, you know, and we should be We should be beating sides like Preston here. I know our home form hasn't been great. We've lost 5 games here. You would never have predicted that at the start of the season, but it's a big opportunity for these boys here tonight.
Rafa Benitez has made 5 changes to his team. Rob Elliott starts in goal, his first Newcastle appearance since the 20th of March last year in the derby that finished 1 apiece. Vernon Anita is back at right back. Jamal Lascelles continues at centre half after a tough afternoon at Ipswich a week ago. He is partnered tonight by Kieran Clark. How important could Kieran Clark's return be for Newcastle? Paul Dummett at left back. John Joe Shelvey and Isaac Hayden continue in central midfield. Matt Ritchie on the right-hand side. Ayose Perez comes into the hole, and Christian Atsu is again selected on the left. Alexander Mitrovic replaces Daryl Murphy up front. Newcastle's bench is Carl Darlow, DeAndre Yedlin, Chancellor Mbemba, Johan Gouffran, Jack Colback, Mo Diarmi and Daryl Murphy. Preston, North End, couple of changes. They've got some injuries, particularly in defence. Chris Maxwell in goal, Tyus Browning at right back, former Newcastle player Paul Huntington, and Andy Boyle at centre half with Tommy Spur at left back. In the wide positions, Tom Barkhuizen and Aidan McGeady, the last 2 winners of the Championship Player of the Month awards. Alan Brown, Paul Gallagher, the captain, and Daniel Johnson.
Hello, and thank you for listening to BBC Local Radio on the internet. Unfortunately, the current programme on this station is unavailable. This is either due to contractual reasons or a temporary technical fault. Please try again later. If you're looking for a sport commentary, please visit bbc.co.uk/sport commentaries for details.
What a cable company can be with crystal clear HD picture and sound, faster internet speeds, and over 90,000 employees working hard every day to earn your business. Welcome to America's fastest growing TV, internet, and voice provider. Welcome to Spectrum. Restrictions apply. Click the banner to learn more.
Wow, what did you do to your curls? So soft, shiny, and defined. They look amazing.
I use John Frieda Frizzy's Air Dry Waves. Ooh. It gives you defined, touchable waves with soft, feather-light movement. No heat required, and no frizz. Frizz-Ease Air Dry Waves is why my curls look amazing.
Wow, beauty secret revealed.
Let's just say hair talks. With Frizz-Ease Air Dry Waves, your hair talks, and frizz never interrupts. Only from John Frieda.
Hi, this is Maury Moreland Morrison, here to tell you Geico has more than just great savings. Much more. Geico's been around for more than 75 years, back when they were using Morse code. Sorry, that's just my sense of humor. What's more, with Geico you get 24/7 access to licensed agents on the app, online, or over the phone, so you can talk to them at night or in the morning. So forevermore, just know that no other auto insurer has more than Geico. More power to you. Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Aviva Premiership Rugby, live Sunday afternoon from 3 over on TalkSport 2.
Hear tough tackling rugby union commentary as Bath take on Gloucester at the Recreation Ground.
Little flighty pass out to the right-hand side and score!
Aviva Premiership Rugby, live Sunday afternoon from 3 over on TalkSport 2, because sport never stops.
Introducing the incredible new multi-purpose Jim White.
Listen
Thanks
to
to a grant
BBC
from the
Local
Arts
Radio.
Council, the nation's best-dressed sportscaster has been reconfigured, rewired, and upgraded for radio. Simply switch on Talk Sport weekday mornings from 10, and hey presto, receive your favorite football philosopher in your car, in your kitchen, and in your carzy.
I'm here. I'm there. I'm always on the air.
The legendary Jim White, now especially adapted for radio. Tomorrow morning from 10 on Talk Sport. Warning, due to lack of visuals, Jim's signature yellow tie is unavailable in some areas.
Radio 5 Live. Unfortunately, due to rights restrictions, we're not able to bring you the current sports commentary on this platform. You may be able to listen on an alternative platform. For further information and terms of use, go to BBC. Not able to bring you the current sports commentary on this platform. You may be able to listen on an alternative platform.
Who then clears long. Hugel tries to spin away off Clark. And there was Lascelles, brave header forward and a free kick. Presume Hugel must have just run into Lascelles and the referee giving a free kick to the home side. 5 minutes in, still 0-0. A win tonight is what Newcastle require. Failure to win this evening. They could be promoted tomorrow if Huddersfield fail to beat Wolves at Molineux. Otherwise, Cardiff on Friday for Newcastle United. But this is an expectant crowd. At times they can be unforgiving at St James's Park. Such is the high standards, and they'll want it to be done and dusted. And I'm sure the players would too, in front of their loyal fan base. And they have been extremely loyal throughout the course of this season. As Anita charges forward, chipping the ball in field. Off the chest of Mitrovic. Edge of the day! Just wide. Gone behind for a corner. Got a touch in there somewhere. What a goal that would have been to set Newcastle on their way. Corner kick, 0-0.
Well, fantastic ball in from Anita. He just finds Mitrovic on the edge of the box. He's got oceans of space. The two central defenders have dropped right off. Took a touch and tried to use one of them to bend it in the far corner. From where we're sitting, it looked like it was in.
Mitrovic was very, very close. Newcastle United playing from right to left. Corner kick on that far side, the right. Ritchie to take it. It's an in-swinger! And there at the far post is Perez to tuck the ball in. And Newcastle United, in the 7th minute, have the early goal. And Newcastle lead 1-0.
Well, that'll definitely settle the nerves down, won't it? It wasn't edgy to start with. I don't think Preston have really got out the blocks. But a lovely ball in by Ritchie. Lascelles at the near post, which they've worked on many, many times since I've seen you, without anybody tapping in the back post. This time, Perez with there 3 or 4 yards out. Just a simple little tap in. Great goal, but far too easy from a defensive point of view from Preston North End. Now see if they can settle down and really make sure this game is put to bed.
Cries of Toon, Black and White Army. It's not a sellout because Preston haven't filled their entire allocation, and as a result of the segregation there's at least 2 empty blocks of grey bucket seats high up in the Leazy's end. But we talked before about settling the nerves, and the Newcastle United fans have got the goal that they wanted to ease any lingering fears?
Well, they also they've started with real tempo, and that's one of the things that they haven't done. We came to the Leeds game a couple of weeks ago and we did the commentary here, and I've got to be honest, they were brilliant that night. The fans were fantastic, really got the tempo up, and they played really well, only to concede a goal in the last minute, but really were the better team all night. They've started exactly the same tonight, expecting, they know they need to do that, but the tempo is so key to when you play at Newcastle at home.
How vital, Shay, in the studio, is that early goal for Newcastle, do you think?
Well, massively. You feel the pressure straight away released, probably even from the players, and in the stadium. You guys, I've got some friends who are texting me saying like the atmosphere up there is electric, and I think that'll just ease the pressure, and hopefully the lads will grow in confidence throughout the game now. But an early goal is just a perfect ticket.
And the thing is as well, now it's a test for these Preston players, bearing in mind, we said before, lost here 6-0 in the League Cup back in October. They won't want to suffer another hiding, will they?
Well, that was my first thought when they were taking the kick off. They looked despondent right from going back there, as if, someone's got to grab a hold of them in this side. Listen, they've got some good players on that side. The likes of McGeady's a real talent, He's got all sorts of ability, but this whole team needs to work together, settle down, make sure they keep it at 1-0 for a period of time and build their way back into the game. It's very easy when you come to places like Newcastle to go 2, 3, 4 if you don't get a hold of the game and get your shape right really early on.
So Newcastle lead by a goal to 0. Dummett is going to take this throw in front of Rafa Benitez, headed on by Mitrovic, and there it'll be Huntington to pass the ball out towards that far side. Barkhuizen looking to go on the outside of Benitez, and he's certainly got the pace as well. Crosses into the penalty area over the head of Hugel, picked up though by McGeady on this right hand side. They're attacking the Gallagate end. McGeady, vastly experienced of course, held up by Dummett, does the little step over onto his left foot, takes a deflection into the penalty area, needed the touch off the header by Lascelles to take it away, because the Hugel and Barkhuizen were still loitering at the far post. But Lascelles, not for the first time, with an important intervention, Steve Stone.
Well, yeah, he's been criticised recently. He's made a few mistakes, and he's looked a little bit lapsadaisical times over the last sort of 6 weeks. He's taken a bit of criticism up here, but that was a fine touch. He's having to run backwards, go over his head. Obviously, there was a Preston North End player behind him, centre forward, ready to tap it in, and he's got a defining header.
So Newcastle 1-0 up. 10 inside 10 minutes, 5 live, as the ball is now on that far side with Preston North End. Gallagher outside the centre circle towards Browning, and it probably won't be for the first time tonight that Rafa Benitez is being serenaded by the Newcastle United supporters, but he still has to focus on the job. There was a brief raise of the right hand to the Gallagate end, but his eyes were transfixed on the action out in front of him. And Elliott making his first appearance since March in goal. 5 changes that Benitez has made, and now a little bit more patient in their approach, Newcastle, Steve.
Yeah, well, this is what they can do now. Now that they've got the goal, they can actually settle it down, keep the ball, pull Preston around, the passing game that Rafa likes to play.
Clark, searching ball from the back. Ritchie's drifted in field. Ritchie will pick up that loose ball and then just make sure that he gets there as well ahead of Alan Brown. Preston a little bit stretched, and eventually it's Barkhuizen who drops deep inside his own half, crosses the ball towards McGeady. Browning will pass the ball to Hugel, lays it off. Good football by Preston, and they're in here, and this is Johnson, and Johnson's in the penalty area. Excellent save by Elliott, 1-on-1, and he berates his defence by Elliott, but that was a super save because Preston carved Newcastle apart.
Well, they did. It was just a set back and a simple ball through, and Anita's got caught ball watching, and Johnson's absolutely got acres of space. He's actually, his first touch is not too bad. His second, he's got out of his feet, and he's got Elliott. He's in oceans of space. His left foot, he's never really been convincing once he's got the strike, but Elliott was a great save. He stood tall, pushed it round. There's a warning sign right off.
Well, just how valued Rob Elliott is. He signed a new 4-year deal in September, but that will do his confidence the world of good for his first appearance of the season to make such an important save as McGeady, as the corner's taken short, and then in the end the looping header from Paul Huntington, a former Newcastle player, began his career in 2005 here, heads the ball over. But a warning sign for Newcastle.
Well, there's another warning sign there. They've all switched off. They're all having an inquest about how they just got through before Preston, and all of a sudden they've taken a short one and they put the ball in the box. They've left it to McGeady, who's got real quality with either foot, left and right. He's put another superb ball in. They've just got to be on the metal.
So Elliott to take a goal kick as the Bladen Races is being sung here at St James's Park. 12 minutes into this game. Newcastle United looking for an immediate return. Lascelles will head it forward. Johnson no back for Preston. Hugel turns as he brings the ball off the chest. Has done well. Was he fouled? He thought so. Referee says no. Andrew Madley. And now it's with Atsu on loan from Chelsea. Dummett on the overlap. Short pass to the Welsh international. Back to the bald-headed Shelvey, just inside the Preston North End half. And now with Lascelles right of the centre circle. Across towards Anita. In front of the East Stand. Forward towards Ritchie. Infield. And this is with Mitrovic. Back to Anita. Good football by Newcastle United, keeping the ball. And then Anita to Hayden. Now with Lascelles once more. Preston drop off Newcastle United. Clark will come forward, the former Aston Villa man, who Shea Given will know well. Chips it forward to Dummett off the chest, but that actually invites Browning to make the challenge, and he puts it out of play for a throw.
Well, Newcastle did the right thing there. They've just got to keep it. You get Preston are getting back in their shape. They're trying to make it difficult now. They've settled into the game. But Newcastle really once they're 1-0 up, really just need to keep it and keep the ball moving at tempo.
Dummett with the cross, takes a deflection, takes another deflection. Mitrovic in the penalty area. He fell to the ground. They were appealing for a penalty, but it was more the supporters rather than the players, as Hugel will break. Barkhuizen is on the outside on the left. Barkhuizen looks up. Johnson also joining the attack. In comes the cross. Hugel! Preston are level! 13 and a half minutes in. What a game we've got here. And Preston North End, those promotion plans are on hold at St James's Park. Fine flick, 1-1.
Well, Hugel's been a threat, hasn't he? Every time the ball's went in the box, he's looked to either try and get the end of it with his head, or he's made his move right across Clark there. Barkhuizen down the left-hand side. He's just cut inside and whipped one in. Some vital little cross. Far too much space, though. There's been a couple of times already, just before that Preston have got in the counter-attack and looked as if they could create some problems. But that was far too wide open. The ball's just dropped in the middle of the park. And I've got to say, that's Hayden's position as a defensive midfield player. He should be sitting there protecting his back four, and on 2 occasions he hasn't done his job.
It all stemmed from where 30 seconds previously down the other end of the field they were maybe looking for a penalty. Didn't seem to be too much in it with Huntington's challenge, but it was an excellent flick by Hugel, wasn't it?
Well, just before that, if you go back to it, he's coming off short, but there's got to be a defensive midfield player who's got to be seeing that that's happening, and he's just got to be there just to say, right, I'm in front of him, I'll stop that ball into him. It just has to be on the half turn.
And don't forget, if Newcastle United don't win tonight, then Brighton will be confirmed as champions of the Championship. Shea, you probably had a chance to look at that with Mitrovic as well for those penalty appeals before the Preston equaliser.
Yeah, not for me a penalty, to be honest. Just a bit in shell shock here that they've scored, so soon after Newcastle. It's a good ball into the box. I think Kieran Clark, the Hugel just sort of dropped off and then made a dart across the front of Kieran Clark, and he's tucked it away really nicely. But from what I said before, the confidence will be high. It's be opposite now. It'll be, because of the results recently, it'll be drained out of the team really quickly. So you've got to just bounce back straight away.
Yeah, without a win in 3, 1 point out of a possible 9, and that was against Leeds United, pegged back ever so late there by Chris Wood's goal. As Anita comes forward, there was a push there in the back, and that'll be a free kick to Preston North End. Should just say as well that we at the weekend, exclusive live radio and online commentary of Joshua against Klitschko, 5 Live and the BBC Sport website on Saturday night. So you'll hear lots of build-up to that this week. And in fact, Monday is always the day when the podcasts are available. And I'm sure on the boxing podcast that you'll be able to find during the usual outlets, there'll be the build-up to start ahead of our exclusive commentary, as well as the new podcast series with Colin Murray at Home With, and his first guest is Jamie Carragher. My guest tonight is Steve Stone. Back in the studio with a big unit is Shea Given. 16 minutes in, 1-1. Steve Stone.
Well, it was been a bright start by Newcastle. You expected them to come out all guns blazing. They were putting balls in the box, they were creating problems for Preston, and it was no surprise when Perez got the first goal. Lovely ball in by Ritchie, little flick from Lascelles, and Newcastle looked like they'd settled the supporters down and themselves down. Then Preston hit Newcastle on the counter-attack, and really they were wide open. Hayden should be sitting in front of the back forward, making sure he does his job to protect him. Got away with it the first time. The second time he didn't get it, and a great little flick by Hugel into the bottom corner, and it was coming on the counter-attack. Newcastle now just need to settle themselves down again and make sure that they control the game by keeping the ball and passing it and moving it, because Preston are going to sit back as they've done so far and hit Newcastle on the counter-attack.
There's a danger as well, because the focus is on Newcastle, that we just talk about Newcastle so much of the time. But the thing is with Preston, and earlier we were talking about recruitment, as Ritchie will send over a very good cross. The goalkeeper has lost it, and then he dives on on the ball at the second attempt. Talking before about recruitment for Newcastle, the recruitment from Simon Grayson, you look at what he's brought in, players on frees, the keeper's actually stayed down, Maxwell is injured, but Hugel for £25,000 from Port Vale, his 13th goal of the season. That's an excellent return.
Do you know what? He looks a handful right from the start as well. And if you can get balls into the box room, we've talked about the likes of McGeady, Barkhuizen, who every time he gets a ball looks to just turn on his right foot and whip one in. They're not messing around. They're not looking to try and build the play. They're looking straight up the centre forward, set it back, get it out wide and get people in the box. Very simple, very basic, but they do it really, really well, and they all know what they're doing. It's just, you look at them as well and you think they could concede goals. That's what you look at them and they look like they're not that strong defensively.
9 games actually without an away win since the 2nd of January at Burton, but they were, up until those 3 straight defeats, had a glimmer of hope for the playoffs.
Yeah, that would have been tough for them as well. You got the likes of Fulham, who are steamrolling people at the minute, and I think it would have been a bridge too far even if they had got in them. They would have been massive underdogs, but they can always build for next season on what they've done.
Maxwell's okay to continue. It's his long clearance. Hugel's header actually goes away from goal. Shelby then out towards Ritchie on the right hand side, who manages to wriggle free. Ritchie on the right hand side, checks back on the inside, delivers a cross, and the goalkeeper came for that, was flapping at it. He might have actually got a touch. It's gone behind for a corner kick. At the moment, Chris Maxwell is not offering any level of confidence at all.
Well, no, he's not, and he's actually tried to come out and try and help his defence. He realises Mitrovic, the centre forward, is a handful when balls are being put in the box. He's tried to come and help his 2 centre-halves out there, and he's way out. He's 8, 9, 10 yards out, and he's actually done a Superman dive miles away from the ball.
Shelby with the corner, goes deep. The goalkeeper this time does get a touch to it, and McGeady volleys the ball away out onto that left-hand side.
He likes to come for things, doesn't he? He's coming for everything at the minute. He's getting involved in stuff he probably doesn't need to get involved in.
We'll try and get a word from Shea as well, who'll have an expert opinion on Chris Maxwell for his goalkeeping performance 20 minutes in when we can, where there's a break in play. You're listening to Radio 5 Live, 20 minutes in, 1-1. Newcastle took the lead, but Hugel has pegged Newcastle back as Ritchie's searching ball, and Atsu can't keep it in play, out for a goal kick. Shea, what have you made of Chris Maxwell so far?
Well, he's been lucky and erratic at the same time. Obviously the ball bounced over his head. He was extremely lucky, and then, as Steve Stone just mentioned, he seems like he wants to come for everything, which is a good thing. It's a positive thing for a goalkeeper. But when you come, you've got to catch it, or you've got to get a good punch on it. And he looks very shaky on crosses at the minute. So, Newcastle obviously will have to put more pressure on him, and the way he's playing at the minute, they look like he could give him a goal.
The voice of Shea Given, Steve Stone with me here at St James's Park as the referee stopped play. It was Hayden who's gone down. Just before that as well, while Shea was talking, I noticed Simon Grayson having a word with Johnson, and he was suggesting that to play the ball over the top towards Hugel.
Well, that's where they've got the joy. They haven't tried to mess around too much with the ball and try and build the play through the midfield, trying to keep the ball. As soon as you go up to Hugel, he's got a physical presence up there. He can hold the ball up, he can bring other people into play, and once they set it back to a midfield player, they then pop it wide and they get the balls in the box. Like I talked about before, it's quite a simple thing that they're doing, but it's very, very effective. And Newcastle 2 centre-halves need to deal with Hugel.
Clark off the ball has just run into Hugel.
I think he's just showing his presence. He's just thought, you bullied me the last sort of 5 or 10 minutes, but I'm not having this anymore. And it's a bit of a stance from him.
Juliet's the producer here tonight. She's just told me that he's actually a huge Middlesbrough fan, so I'm sure he would have loved that goal at the Gallagher's end to silence Newcastle. 1-1, and now Gallagher's going to take this free kick midway through the Newcastle half. It's right-footed. It's a devilish ball in, which actually that Newcastle did well to clear. Johnson then looking towards Barkhuizen. Interception came from Ritchie. Johnson dives in to try and win the ball back. They were looking for a free kick there, I think, for the challenge on Johnson, and it's been awarded by referee Andrew Madley.
Go back to the fact that Gallagher's ball into the box was a terrific one there, and Lascelles is going back towards his own goal, and he's got a big strong neck on it, and he's got it away from his goal. Terrific header, great defending.
They certainly haven't come here to roll over Preston North End. Forget any ideas of that. As Ritchie with a back heel to Anita in front of the east stand, midway through the Preston half, over on that far side, the right. Ball inside towards Hayden, cut out there by Huntington, and clears it long. It won't go out of play. Lascelles will retrieve it 6 yards inside his own half. Newcastle are playing from right to left. Clark Noel on the ground to Dummett near side the left. Forward ball, Atsu. Mitrovic has gone down the line. Atsu, though, will actually run into the space that was vacated by the run of Mitrovic. Then he's held up by McKeady, tracking back. Newcastle are forced to go back. Shelby in between the two central defenders. Forward ball, interception from Huntington was a vital one.
It was a great run by Ritchie. Newcastle were just keeping the ball, just waiting for that little bit of opening, and usually the man is Shelby, who normally delivers that pass. He's so close. Great run again from Ritchie, but we're looking at Preston as well, just getting back into the shape, just making sure when Newcastle get the ball, they're not trying to press them too high up the pitch, leaving space in behind. They're getting basically to the centre circle, and then they're starting to attach. But they look compact now. They look as if they've got the game plan a little bit more sorted. Compact, ball goes up to Hugel. Little setback out wide, put the ball in the box, counter-attack.
Preston have certainly responded well since that early goal. It's the last thing that Simon Grayson would have wanted, but Newcastle United at the moment are having to be patient. 23.5 minutes in. Clark outside the centre circle of the Preston half. Left-footed.
Look how deep they are. They're 30 yards from the goal, and then they're starting to engage. They just compact all the space.
Shelby coming in off the left touchline. Midway through the Preston half, Mitrovic able to turn, looking towards Perez. Huntington has gone with him. He'll win a corner off the knees of Huntington. Mitrovic just found himself in a pocket of space there, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, he just can't sort his feet out at times because he's such a big lad. You know, he likes the things into the box. He likes diagonal balls up onto his chest so he can bully the centre half. That's where he's good. Not so much around the runs down the side of the centre half. He really hasn't got the pace to do that. But Newcastle have been great from set plays.
Lascelles is up from the black. That's a good take though by Maxwell. Clark was also there. He's released it early, and it's Barkhuizen who's made the chase, and he's chested the ball into the penalty area, but tracking back with him every step of the way was Dummett, and in the end the angles were against Barkhuizen. In the end, right-footed into the Gallagate end, and it's still 1-1.
Well, Barkhuizen's quick, isn't he? I mean, Paul Dummett's no slouch. He's one of the quickest in the Newcastle team, and he's just ran away from there. Paul Dummett, I think, just did enough to put him off on the end, but a great catch from Maxwell, who we've been critical of in the first 15-20 minutes. Sprung the play, once again, counter-attack. Not a bad effort.
Brought him in from Morecambe in January. Scored 6 goals in 14 appearances. 23 years of age. Another astute signing from the lower leagues for this Preston North End side, who are the 4th lowest budget in the Championship. Certainly punching above their weight for where they lie at the moment, 11th in the table.
Do you know, when you've got the 4th lowest budget, you have to go shop. You have to that's where your scouts will be. That's where his recruitment. They'll be looking there week in, week out. He'll not be watching Premier League games. He'll be watching the under-23 games in the Premier League to see who he can take on loan from the bigger sides and give them experience. And he'll be looking in the lower leagues at the better players who might be out of contract or might not be in the team. And he's done a great job with some of it. I mean, 23. Barkhuizen, he's quick, isn't he?
Certainly is, as he proved then. Shelby's just been caught in possession by Brown this time in the midfield. Lascelles in the centre circle will tidy up for Newcastle. Clark, the Irish international, to Dummett, and then Dummett has to release the ball quickly because McGeady was pressing on him. Both managers are out in the technical area. The tracksuit with Simon Grayson. The smart suit of Rafa Benitez watching on. 26 minutes played, 1-1 here at St James's Park on 5 Live. Hayden, just in from the right touchline. Back to the diminutive Anita. Lascelles, forward ball. Ritchie has a glance over his shoulder. Back with Lascelles once again. Looks up, will switch play out towards this near side, the left. Atsu will block the run of Browning. Allows it to come to Dummett, high up the field. To Atsu on loan from Chelsea. The return ball to Atsu. Caught late by Browning. Outside the penalty area, direct free kick.
Great little 1-2, wasn't it, from Atsu? Just a burst of pace, edge of the box, 1-2, ready to drive in. Browning took him down the last minute. He was so quick, Atsu, and that's what you need to get him. You need to get him one-on-one with somebody, or running at somebody, driving at them down the outside. He's got real ability. His end product isn't always the best, but top play from him there.
Tyus Browning on loan from Everton. 22 years of age, has just been booked. It's only his 6th appearance for Preston North End, but it gives Newcastle United just centimetres outside the penalty area, left corner of the box, attacking the Leazy's end for those of you who know St James's Park. 27 minutes have been played, 1-1. Now does Shelby go for goal with the right foot? He leaves it. It's Ritchie who drills it in low, looking towards Clark, and there's a good block challenge in. It was, I think, by Huntington, who now tries to get those yellow shirts back out. Marshals the defence as the ball is pumped back in long. Headed back, cleared away by Brown, off the chest and then skied in the air. As there is a purple haze over the east stand in the sky on that far side, and then it's eventually cleared by Gallagher. And not a bad ball either by Gallagher. Out towards Barkhuizen. Left-hand side, cuts in field, crosses the ball. Clark's back in position to head the ball away. And then just taken away by Hayden from Gallagher. And Newcastle now might be able to break. Mitrovic towards Shelby. The black and white stripes are coming forward. Plenty of yellow back there for Preston. Shelby will shoot. And eventually it's cleared out of play by Andy Boyle, the other central defender for Preston North End. Taken quickly by Anita, trying to keep the pressure on. In it comes by Ritchie, chip long, headed away by Browning. And now it'll be brought clear by Brown for Preston North End. Along the ground, Hugel won't get there for that. Clark just shuffles across his line, and Newcastle are back in possession.
Well, once again, it's the ball from Gallagher. From up here, we just thought, oh, he's just trying to clear it, but he's actually seen Barkhuizen out the corner of his eye just make that run, and he's got Anita on toast at the minute. Anita doesn't know what to do with him. He's going inside and outside him, but when he pulls it in on that right foot, he's actually clipping some lovely balls into the centre, and he's causing problems, and they really need to get a hold of him. But they're playing on that because Anita's not really a right back. He's more of a centre of midfield player, and he's just filling in.
Ritchie on that right hand side. Here is Anita, who Steve's just been talking about, plays it forward. Hayden's made the run on the right hand side, and the cross across the face of goal. Nobody was there in the middle to meet it, and in the end it was Browning who just turned it behind for a corner kick in front of Atsu.
Well, you can see why the fans are disgruntled what's happening there. You should have Mitrovic playing higher up the pitch, right on the back shoulder of the last centre off, and the likes of Perez should be dropping into the hole. Perez is in the hole, but Mitrovic had come short as well. So when he's rolled it across the 6-yard box, there's absolutely nobody there.
Half an hour played, 1-1. Newcastle have a corner kick on this near side, the left. Shelby to take it, right-footed, right down the throat of Maxwell. But look at Maxwell. As soon as he gathers that ball in, he's looking for the early release. It was towards Barkhuizen, and Elliott, though, this time had read it. And Elliott will hammer that ball away downfield, but it goes out of play for a throw.
Oh, that's great by Elliott. He's actually realised the last situation where they broke Maxwell. Once again, a carbon copy. He's trying to punt it right into the same place. His starting position's much better this time. He's already on his way to it. He's a massive favourite for it. But Newcastle, when they've got corners going into the box, they need to put somebody at least around and on the goalkeeper. They've got people at the front post and the back post, and there's 4 attacking the ball, but the goalkeeper's going to come for everybody. At least make it difficult for him. He's already shown he has trouble coming through bodies.
Hayden to Anita. Now with Shelby, deep inside his own half to collect this ball. Diagonal ball, which is headed out of play by Browning to prevent it from reaching Atsu, with the Mohican for the Ghanaian, who will leave it now towards Dummett to venture forward on this near side in front of the main stand as Newcastle play from right to left. Not much movement though for Dummett at the moment on this cold evening on Tyneside. 1-1 it remains, and Brown with the interception gets stuck underneath his feet, allows Hayden then to cross the ball over the head of Mitrovic. Johnson will prevent it from reaching Anita, and now it can be brought forward, and Barkhuizen's away from one challenge. But that was an excellent challenge then by Anita on the halfway line.
Look, I'm just looking where Hayden is. He's the defensive midfield player, and he's up the top end of the pitch with Mitrovic. He needs to be sitting there with Shelby and working as a pair and working together. He's trying to affect the game at the top end of the pitch. He should just be sitting there alongside him and let the ability of the likes of Ritchie and Atsu go do their job and attack, and he does his and sit there in the midfield.
Well, here is Ritchie running forward on his toes. It's a cross, left-footed, and it was too close to the goalkeeper. He took that around head height as Atsu made the challenge. Maxwell will slow things down for Preston North End as we've been playing for 32 minutes and it's still 1-1. And Maxwell eventually now will clear right-footed downfield. Dummett clearly had hold of Hugel there as Gallagher pops it to McGeady on the chest, controls the ball, lays it back towards Browning. Browning, though, is forced to retreat, and then it's with Andy Boyle, and Maxwell, the goalkeeper, comes out of his penalty area. downfield. Hugel bounces off the chest. And that sturdy chest of his, it bounced about 4 or 5 yards away from him. And now it's with Anita to Ritchie. Ritchie's on the halfway line. This is where the apprehension might start to creep back in. After the early goal, they thought, oh, we're on our way, and it hasn't panned out that way.
No, it hasn't, but in saying that, you can't go gung-ho either. You've got, it's got to be measured in your attacks, and we've just seen them go a little bit too much gung-ho at the minute with the likes of Hayden going too far forward.
That's who's given the ball away, but he redeems himself by running back to win it. But Brown will come forward to take the throw. McGeady's there, Hugel, Johnson, and then Barkhuizen over on that far side. But Brown has ventured too far forward for Preston North End. 12 minutes to go to half-time. 1-1, St James's Park, 5 Live. The big fight at the weekend to look forward to. Joshua against Klitschko. Huntington gets it back from Spur, filling in for Greg Cunningham, who's out with that broken leg, and Huntington's got to turn because of the attentions of Perez. Back to his goalkeeper, decks out all in green, away to our left-hand side, clears it long. Dummett beats McGeady in the air. Loose ball, though, picked up by Gallagher for Preston. Downing to McGeady, triangular passing pattern between the three. Back with Browning, the Everton defender, and now it's with Huntington to Boyle. They pass the ball across the back. They're in no real hurry to go anywhere. Spur now at left back will get a touch. Ritchie will press on towards him. Ritchie then barking out the orders as he wants Newcastle to continue this high intensity. Preston go back and Maxwell goes long. Hugel uses his strength. McGeady picks up the loose ball and drifts over towards that far side, the left. You can start to hear a little bit more anxious voices from those inside St James's Park.
Well, Preston are starting to win the second balls in the middle of the park as well. The ball is going up to Hugel, which it has done all game. They know the plan. Newcastle, Rafa's spotted it. He's trying to get Hayden to just sit in front of him, or when the ball does come into him, then he can at least win the second ball, put himself in the right position. He's normally excellent at it. He's been really good when he's played for Newcastle this season. Once again, the ball is broke then. He's too far forward. He's ahead of the play.
Johnson. You can hear the groans and the cries of frustration from the Newcastle United faithful. Browning, near side the right. Brown wants it back. Browning, though, to Gallagher. Gallagher comes forward. Perez is back there helping out. Browning inside to Brown. Back with Boyle. Keeping the ball. Good spell by Preston North End to frustrate the Newcastle United supporters.
Well, the likes of Gallagher in the middle of the park, he's got real experience. McGeady's now coming in off the line. They're starting to overload them in the wide areas. Some good play.
This is good football by Preston North End. Patient, keeping the ball. And Newcastle United at the moment can't get anywhere near them.
Well, they can't get near them because the defence is not squeezing hard enough. There's nobody at the back there actually trying to squeeze them. They're worried about the pace in behind or the ball in behind. There's no need for that. They haven't got the pace to actually do that. They need to really go and press them high, and that comes from the two centre-halves.
Well, at the moment, Preston are bossing this game in this period. Newcastle United supporters raise the decibel levels inside St James's Park as Browning can't keep the ball in play. That was an excellent passage of play by Preston.
Well, they kept the ball for about 3 or 4 minutes. They didn't actually try to go anywhere, but Newcastle were actually guilty of not trying to press the ball. We've said that if the centre forwards are going to go and press the ball, then the midfield and defence have to push up as a unit. They have to get the distances right. If the centre forwards went, there was big gaps behind them. That's why they weren't going, and they realised that. But Newcastle really need to take the game to Preston, push up, squeeze up, and like I say, it all comes from the back. It all comes from your two centre-halves and the leaders in there to try and squeeze.
36 minutes played on 5 Live, and it's 1-1 in a game that Newcastle know if they win, they're making an immediate return back to the Premier League. Anita on the halfway line, steady ball along the ground out towards Ritchie, drifts in field, and then with Lascelles back inside the Newcastle half. Shelby now takes it over, asks Lascelles to go on ahead of him. Both the fullbacks are pushed on. Lascelles is urged to go further forward. Perez, though, drops deep to collect this ball now for Newcastle United. Black and white striped shirts, playing from right to left. Shelby's ball in, easily cleared away by Boyle as it dropped on the edge of the penalty area. Hugel couldn't hold it up. And it was Spur who, in the end, had to make a last-ditch tackle to force the ball behind for a corner to poke it away from Perez. Corner kick 1-1.
Yeah, Perez just looked like on the turnover play there, he's getting down the sides of the centre-half. It was a great tackle, last-ditch tackle. Just a little bit worried he might have given a penalty away there, going to ground in the box. But another opportunity for Newcastle to whip a decent ball in the box. Somebody's got to go on the goalkeeper. Perez has went on this time. He's got to do his job by staying there, or when the ball's flicked on, to move off him for the tap-in like he did for the first goal.
8 minutes to half-time. Ritchie with the in-swinging corner. Couple of headers away there by Hugel, who was back there helping out. Shelby keeps the ball in play on this left-hand side to Dummett. Back to Anita in the centre circle again. The natives are restless, but now they start to applaud as it's out towards Ritchie. Right corner of the penalty area. Atsu on the overlap. Atsu tries to dance by the byline, and it's turned behind by Gallagher for another corner. Newcastle's turn for pressure.
Well, that is pressure as well. That's 2 corners in about 30 seconds or a minute, and that's the pressure that they need to build. Put the goalkeeper under pressure. They've got Perez standing right on him now. He's got to do his job by staying there and reading the ball when it gets the flick.
Perez is there, Mitrovic is also there. It's aimed towards Lascelles, who is making a run round the back. Lascelles brings the ball under control, crosses the ball back into the penalty area. Mitrovic's header is up rather than goal bound, and the referee, Andrew Madley, blows his whistle, and literally hopping mad was Rafa Benitez as he makes his way back to the dugout.
I'm not so sure what the referees actually give that for. There was a bit of argy-bargy in the box that's going on. Mitrovic must have been done for pushing, but we couldn't see it from the angle out where that. But again, balls into the box are causing Preston problems. They don't have to be of any real quality. Put them in there and make sure that they get people around the goalkeeper to try and put him under pressure. We've seen right from the start, he does not like coming through bodies. If you leave him to come through it, he will come and catch it, and he will set them away on the counter-attack. I've got to say his distribution's been excellent as well, not only from when he's got in his hands. They've used him as like a sweeper. When the centre-halves have got the ball, they've played the ball back to him, and he can spray the ball. He's definitely got ability.
The voice of Steve Stone on 5 Live. 6 minutes to go to half-time. Then you'll hear Mark Chapman and Shay Given in the studio as Clark with Shelby. There's plenty of activity during last summer. 14 players brought in, 11 departed, a further 16 out on loan. We're talking about what could lie ahead this summer for Newcastle United, when many expect them to be back in the Premier League. Whether, of course, is secured tonight is debatable, because they need the 3 points. But at the moment, they are being thwarted by Preston North End as it's 1-1 as we edge our way to the interval. And Spur is in no hurry to take this free kick. The left back for Preston North End over on that far side, playing from left to right. Not much movement for him, to be fair. The referee tells him to hurry up, so he goes down the line, looking towards Hugel. Headed away, though, by Ritchie. Hooked forward by Gallagher. Now here is Shelby on the fringes of the centre circle in the Preston half. Atsu to Dummett. Dummett on the halfway line. Atsu's in field, so there's no width at the moment, which now Dummett will provide as he darts forward. But the play instead switches to the other side. And Lascelles outside the centre circle, then gets it back midway through the Preston half. Lascelles goes short and square towards Ritchie. Ritchie further in field to Shelby. Atsu, who has said it drifted in field. Dummett provides the width on the left. Atsu waits. Atsu goes back in field, still midway through the Preston North End half. To Shelby, along the ground. Anita, in field, the right back. Now out to the right to Ritchie. Anita goes on the overlap. Ritchie with a cross. And it curls all the way out of play for a goal kick, still 1-1.
Yeah, the right type of thing to do, but the ball out to Ritchie, it's all just too slow. It's pass, yep, no problem, keeping it nice and tidy, keeping the ball like Rafa would want them to do. But when you're trying to move teams around, when they sit back with 8-9 men behind the ball, you have to move the ball at tempo. When you switch the play, you really have to switch it with a real bit of tempo again. And Newcastle just haven't done that at the minute. Yes, they can get it out there to one-on-one, like Sir Ritchie, but Preston North End at the back, they're all set, they're all ready for it. And the shape's very, very good at the minute. They're all disciplined, they all know what they're doing. Just watching before as well, when Newcastle had the ball, they were 1v1 at the back. Kieran Clark and Hugel were all by themselves, and nobody's actually watched that. The fact that they've already been hitting the counter-attack so many times, they were so open. The likes of Dummett was high on the left, Anita was high on the right. They are so bare on the counter. Once again, Hayden was too far up the pitch, right in front of Shelby. I don't know if he's actually been told to do that, but for me, he needs to start sitting in there. I'm watching the opposition and Gallagher, who's sitting in that little role in front of the back four, and he hasn't moved all game. He's just watched where Perez has went, and he's trying to just protect his back four.
And it's interesting whilst you say that, Steve, as Shelby now picks this ball up in the outside the centre circle out towards Anita. Anita will stand over the cross from the right, and the goalkeeper's gathered it in. But whilst you were saying that, Simon Grayson was more or less just reinforcing what you were saying. He had a word with Tyus Browning. Hit Hugel early on.
Well, I mean, they've had passes of play, Preston, where they did keep the ball, and it was excellent why they did try, and they were keeping it actually probably to get a breather. And once you've got it, Newcastle aren't attacking. It's a great defensive strategy to keep the ball, and they're popping it around lovely. But Simon's sitting on the sideline, and he's realised that you get the ball up to him, you've got every opportunity of causing the two centre-halves problems, because they're not dealing with them tonight. He's coming off, he's getting the chestnut down, he's popping it back, they're popping it wide, they're getting balls in the box, and the two centre-halves really need to go tight and really be physical with them.
Clint Snowden, one of his trusty lieutenants, actually sitting in the director's box, so he'll have the elevated view, if you like, to be able to get messages down to Steve Thompson as well as Simon Grayson in the Preston dugout. 2.5 minutes to go to half-time, and it's still 1-1 as Clark tries to spread play out towards the right-hand side towards Ritchie. Spur controlled that ball, infield to Huntington, and the central defender for Preston goes back to Maxwell, the goalkeeper, who clears right-footed. Aim towards Hugel, jumps in the air. Lascelles, though, with the header back towards Rob Elliott. As Rafa Benitez just shuffles from foot to foot, watching on, and he's still trying to get his instructions across with a pen in his right hand and a piece of paper in his left. He turns away again. Because a rather frustrated figure at the moment, does Rafa Benitez. Anita gets the ball back from Ritchie. Shelby shows himself with the square pass. Back with Anita once again, but that yellow shirt, everybody back behind the ball inside the Preston half. As Lascelles goes out towards this left-hand side. McGeady's back there with Dummett, and Maxwell will keep the ball in play.
Well, Newcastle are just getting frustrated by the fact that Preston have played this 4-1-4-1 system. There's very little room in between the defence and midfield. Gallagher's doing a great job trying to screen Mitrovic and Perez in front there. Fantastic the way he's doing it. And then Newcastle are getting frustrated by trying to play the long diagonal and try and force it when it's not really on.
Back with Dummett. You'll hear the response yourselves from these Newcastle United supporters whose patience is starting to be tested. That's the impression you get sitting here as at neutral at St James's Park as we enter the last 60 seconds. Patience very much the key word tonight as Ritchie, right-hand side, looks to cross. Brown tried to step out, did enough, and then Gallagher will clear. And now the break is on with the pacey Barkus and Johnson going on ahead of him. They're not afraid to commit yellow shirts forward at Preston North End. Gallagher chips the ball out. Johnson's continued his run as he drifts out towards the left. Brown's in close attendance. Behind is Spur, the left back, who joins the attack.
Both centre-halves are on the right wing as well for Newcastle. Look
at all the space on this near side as well.
The shape when they get counter-attacks, just unbelievable. I can't believe how they've actually set up. They're just trying to force it.
Breakdown in communication between Johnson and McGeady. Hayden takes full advantage. Hayden on the counter-attack. They've squared it. Atsu! Preston North End are punished, and that is the perfect tonic to go into half-time. That's what Newcastle wanted. They lead by 2-1.
Well, that was Preston North End shooting themselves in the foot. They had complete control there. They were trying to counter-attack, made a mess of it in the middle of the park, and Atsu, once he's got through with about 16-17 yards out, first touch, left foot into the bottom corner, clinical finish, but it didn't look like it was coming. Newcastle were poor before that. Gives them a different team talk going into the break for Rafa. And we've just seen Shelby there, just pointing to everybody, listen, think guys, we've got to realise we're winning now. We've got to keep the ball. Do not commit too many men forward. Hayden, Shelby, stay in the middle of the park. Fullbacks don't go too far forward. Great counter-attack.
Just when Preston was so much in control, said it was a breakdown in communication. Told you it was a cold night between McGeady and Johnson. And that's when Preston was struggling. And Simon Grayson's reaction, and even now with a shake of the head, says everything.
Well, managers are devastated when things happen like that. Not only the way the goal has been conceded, but the timing of the goal. Preston have probably been the better organised and the better team in terms of how Newcastle have been frustrated and the way that Preston have set up. Now the game's totally different team talk for Rafa at half-time. He'll go in there, he'll settle everybody down, he'll try to get them to keep the ball, he'll try and bring Preston onto him so he can actually then hit them on the counter-attack like they've just done.
During a game, I sometimes scribble to make notes, and I had the Mitrovic curling effort early on that went wide. 60 seconds later, Newcastle took the lead as Preston will cross, comes out on as far as Barkus, and that's all headed away. But up until then, that's all that Newcastle really created. They've had the set pieces without necessarily stretching Maxwell, the goalkeeper, until that goal to put them 2-1 up. and we've only got the 1 minute of added on time, which we're into, so the half-time whistle is due to sound. A look at his left wrist by Rafa Benitez, just to see how much, that was a challenge on the back, but the referee says no free kick, and in fact it's the half-time whistle. Well, I've enjoyed the game as a neutral, but for Newcastle United, it's been a little bit frustrating until that Atsu goal gives them a half-time lead of 2-1. Steve Stone.
Well, Newcastle started really well. We talked about getting off to a fast start. They did that. They created corners. They put balls in the box, and Perez has got a lovely little tap in at the back post. But after that, Newcastle sort of really struggled to cope with the likes of Hugel up front. He just caused them all sorts of problems, and they got a couple of warnings before the goal went in. But Newcastle have got away with murder there in the end. Preston have just given away a sloppy ball in the middle of the park. Atsu's broke on them, and it's 2-1, and it's a different type of game. There's still more goals in this game.
Perez at the far post got Newcastle an early goal after 7 minutes. 7 minutes later, Preston were level through Hugel's flick. Fine goal that was. And then Atsu on the stroke of half-time. And Newcastle United are on course for an immediate return. 2-1 at the break. Mark.
Shay Given, even on our monitor, the nerves are coming through from the ground.
Well, I'm nervous sitting here watching it. So you can only imagine what it's like in the stadium. I mean, it's such a perfect timing for the second goal, just right on half-time. It's a massive goal. I mean, it swings both ways. Perez scores after 6 minutes, the crowd's lifted. Hugel equalises and the crowd's, lower than a snake's belly, and now they're back just before half-time, and hopefully Rafa can get their heads together, get them settled half-time and come out, and see the job through second half.
Feels like there's a sharp intake of breath, Steve Stone, every time a Preston player gets the ball.
That's because defensively Newcastle aren't great, and you can actually, if you're watching it there on the monitors, you can actually see the spaces that are opening up. There's a huge space on that left-hand side, and Anita's taken to the cleaners every time the lad gets the ball, Barkus, and he's got some ability, the lad. He can go both ways, but he tends to seem to cut up back on his right-hand side. Look to just clip something in first off for Hugel, and they've managed to do it once, but it could have happened on so many more occasions. The danger signs are still there for the second half. There's no way that Newcastle can come out and relax in the second half. They need to come out and score a third or a fourth goal to put these to bed, because defensively they're just not at the races.
Stuart says we're making what should be a routine match look difficult. Always got to do things the hard way. You can text us 85058, tweet us at 5Live Sport. Steve says how to play Newcastle at St James's. Park the bus, which I think is maybe a little bit harsh. Maybe it means defend well. Get stuck in and then hit them on the break. But that's what they have. I mean, they have defended well.
I mean, Steve Stone's mentioned that in commentary. They're sitting very deep, probably 30 yards from their own goal, Preston. But as soon as they get it, they're breaking very fast. And even Maxwell, he's come out and caught a couple of corners as well. And his first thought is to launch it up front and get them on the counter-attack. So, Newcastle really need to get a third goal and see the game out. But, the longer it goes on, obviously at 2-1, it's still going to be very nervy.
We'll be back then with Ian Dennis and Steve Stone for the second half. Shay Given with me in the studio. Keep the texts and the tweets coming, 85058 at 5Live Sport. During half-time, we're going to focus on the big fight this weekend. Anthony Joshua against Vladimir Klitschko from Wembley Stadium. We've got exclusive live radio and online commentary of that fight with Mike Costello and Steve Bunce. We'll hear from promoter Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua during half-time. But first, here's the BBC News with Helen Place.
On digital, online, smartphone and tablet, this is BBC 5 Live.
In the last few minutes, far-right French presidential candidate Marine Le Pen has announced she'll step down as leader.
To come. Meanwhile, the EFL has said in a statement that they are exceptionally concerned by the situation at Leyton Orient. Barry Hearn resigned as honorary president with the club relegated from the Football League on Saturday. But the EFL have made it clear that they will be seeking answers from the directors, saying silence is not an acceptable response. Neil Robertson and Marco Fu are locked in a battle for a place in the quarterfinals of the World Snooker Championships at the Crucible. The latest from George Riley.
I've been pretty edgy tonight, Mark. They resumed all square at 8 frames apiece. A very lengthy opener went the way of Robertson, winning here 7 years ago. The next saw a re-rack, and then we got going again and saw another frame for the Aussie. So he has a bit of daylight. It's Robertson 10, Fu 8, first to 13 through to play the defending champion Mark Selby in the quarterfinals.
And that's on the BBC Sport website this evening. Kelly Southerton is set to be upgraded to an Olympic bronze medal for the second time in 5 months. A retrospective drug test proved the Russian athlete who came third in the heptathlon at the 2008 Games was using a steroid. Salford winger Justin Carney could be banned for at least 8 matches after being accused of racially abusing an opponent. He was sent off during Salford's Challenge Cup win over the Toronto Wolfpack yesterday. And Great Britain lead Estonia 2-1 at the Ice Hockey World Championships. And if you want to listen to that, it's on 5 Live Sports Extra. If you want to listen to the big fight on Saturday night, then you have to be with us here on 5 Live, because we've got exclusive live radio and online commentary of Anthony Joshua against Vladimir Klitschko from Wembley Stadium. So either with us here or on the BBC Sport website. And you can download the boxing podcast right now as Steve Bunce is joined by promoter Eddie Hearn to look ahead to the big fight. Plus, Joshua discusses how he's handling the pressure of being the future of boxing.
It's hard because, as I said, I've never claimed to be the greatest or anything, but I can say I've got a few skills and I know how to fight, so that helps. But I just enjoy the game. It's helped me. I add my bit to it, and that's enough for me. Do you know what I mean? So all the other stuff that comes with it is a bit of added pressure, but then again, without pressure, where would I be?
Exactly, without. Now, you're staying in the same accommodation that you've been staying in since you first came up here to Sheffield. Are you having more sleepless nights now, or is it just normal?
Front of Brown and then holds the ball up as Gallagher makes the challenge. Ball breaks back to Anita. Referee is Andrew Madley. As on this cold night now, under the floodlights, darkness has descended on Tyneside. 3 points will take Newcastle back to the Premier League for an immediate return. And yes, they've had a little bit of a mini slump. 1 point out of a possible 9 lately. They've lost to Sheffield Wednesday and Ipswich. They were conceded a dramatic equaliser at home to Leeds United just when they thought that the points were safe. But also a little bit of perspective as well, because only 3 teams since 2010 has had more points than Newcastle. The tally of Newcastle at this stage of the season of 85 points after 43 games. And in fact 7 of the last 10 have actually been top with 85, so it's all about getting back up there, as I'm sure Norwich City and Aston Villa fans will gladly testify. And Newcastle at the moment are heading for automatic promotion. They're attacking the Gallagate end. They've got themselves their corner kick now on this right hand side. Richie to take it, right footed, the goalkeeper beaten to the ball by Huntington, heads it away, headed back in and then volleyed away by Gallagher for Preston North End. Dummett will head it away from McGeady, picked up though by Brown over the halfway line. 2 Newcastle players go towards him in the shape of Ritchie and Shelvey. McGeady wins it back for Preston North End, back with Gallagher midway through his own half, and Gallagher then chips it back to where it came from, and it's held up by Barkhuizen, who then actually drops back inside his own half. But Brown passes the ball out towards McGeady, finds himself up against Lascelles as he comes in field. And now with Gallagher, Newcastle drop off Preston. Steve.
Yeah, McGeady's, you can see he's still got the skill and the ability. He's just lost a yard of pace that we used to see a few years ago. Still got the trickery, but Newcastle just have to be careful once again there. When Newcastle have got the attack and the press, and the counter-attack is on again, you can see it. They just don't seem to be organising at the back to try and push and pull people to make sure they're marking. People are just drifting into space and they're watching the 2 centre-halves.
We talked before about some of the astute signings that Simon Grayson has made. He's got a healthy relationship with his chairman, Peter Ridsdale, as the ball is hoisted up towards Mitrovic in the penalty area, and off the cutback he'll win a corner. And certainly there's been some shrewd deals being done by Peter Ridsdale to help with Preston's cause as he watches on. Of course, the owner of Preston North End is Trevor Hemmings, whose horse Vicente won the Scottish Grand National at the weekend. So Preston North End have got some defensive work to do, as Newcastle United have got a corner kick over on that far side. It's going to be an outswinger. Oh! And it's just trickled wide for another corner kick. Not too sure who the last touch it came off.
It's that outswinger, it's causing Preston problems. Lascelles is getting right across the near post. I think his marker is getting blocked by the likes of Kieran Clark, who's doing a great job in there. And again, he's done it again.
And it comes again, flicked on.
He's free Lascelles every time. Every time it comes in, Kieran Clark's doing a great job.
Mitrovic trying to muscle his way back in on the right-hand side and put out of play by Spur, the left back. Newcastle United pinning Preston back inside their own half at the moment. 6 minutes played. Anita will collect the ball, has to reach for it quite high off the ball boy. Not much between them in terms of height. Here is Ritchie. Ritchie tries to go around the back, and it'll be cleared eventually by Spur. Sliding back in though was Hayden. Real tussle down by the corner flag. Ritchie still alive, and in the end it's a Newcastle throw just up from the corner flag. Newcastle looking for the 3rd goal. Ideally they're looking for a 3rd to give them a 2-goal cushion. They only lead by 2-1. We've been playing for 6.5 minutes. Anita still in the right corner. Ritchie behind him. Ritchie's left-footed cross curling away from Atsu, and out of play it goes for a goal kick.
Yeah, Rafa just goes, he's just lost his temper a little bit there. Ritchie's got the ball in the corner there. They've got 3 players in there trying to keep it, trying to work the angles, trying to overload in the wide areas, Preston. And Ritchie just swings on the box where there's not many bodies in there. He's trying to keep the ball. He's trying to work possession football, Rafa. He loves it. I've come here many times, and he loves to just keep that ball and wear the opposition down. So Newcastle score goals later on in the game when the opposition tire from working and trying to get the ball off them.
We're only with you until 10 o'clock tonight, because regular listeners to the Monday Night Club will know that at 10 o'clock there's Flintoff Savage and the Ping Pong Guy that comes up at 10. But we will be taking your calls before that. Chance to speak to Shay Given and Steve Stone on the new number, which is free to all mobiles, 0808 5909 693. 7.5 minutes into the second half, and Newcastle United will try and give you, if we can, some reaction to Newcastle's promotion, if of course it stays that way. There's Hugel, who's led the line well, but the referee's actually blown his whistle and has spotted an infringement, leapt in the air and directed his header behind. I thought he'd done well, but at the moment the referee's talking towards Hugel.
No, I thought Hugel did excellent as well. I think it was just a direct ball into him, and once again I'm just looking, and a couple of the Preston players have made a midfield run off the back of Newcastle's midfield, and they're not tracking them. It's just the second balls in there that they're getting. Once again, Shelvey's sort of looks like the holding player, because when Newcastle have the ball, he will be in that position to try and spray it, and Hayden's too far forward, and that's not Shelvey's game. People can run off him quite easily, and Hayden really needs to just sit in there alongside him and do a bit of protection work when the opposition has the ball.
Here is Hayden, back with Clark. Bypasses Lascelles to Shelvey, who actually returns the ball to the former Aston Villa defender, who now strides forward over the halfway line, out towards that far side. It's laid off to Dummett. Back with Clark once again. Shelvey collects the short ball, and back with the Irish international. Preston keeping their shape at the moment, Newcastle having to bide their time. As the ball then is laid back by Mitrovic to Shelvey. Anita's gone bombing forward into space on this near side, the right, but play is back on that far side, the left, with Clark. Dummett's quite high up the pitch, the Newcastle left back at the moment. Still 2-1 to the home side, as now Clark comes forward down that left touchline. He's almost level with the penalty area, but they wait, and Preston then push out. Then the ball is quickly returned towards Hayden, and it will be cleared by Gallagher. Charged down, flicked on then by Browning, and Preston North End with McGeady can't take advantage, as Hayden tries to win it back for Newcastle. Ball clipped forward by Gallagher to Barkhuizen. We've talked about his pace, and he's carried the ball into the penalty area already. And Barkhuizen with a cross, and just couldn't get there was Hugel. It was a cross with the outside of his right foot, and it's run out of play for a throw over on that far side, but it's applauded by manager Simon Grayson.
Well, Newcastle are trying to keep the ball. I can see what Rafa's trying to do. He's trying to be patient in possession. He's not trying to force it. The crowd are starting to get Newcastle back because they're not playing the ball forward. Kieran Clark is then from centre half on the 18-yard line. He's way out of position because he's driven, because he's lost his patience, he's lost his discipline. The ball breaks out. Newcastle lose the ball in the middle of the park, which they've been doing all night, and all of a sudden Preston North End are on the counter-attack. It's happened time and time again. I don't know when they're going to learn just to keep the shape and let the players in the top end of the pitch do their job. The likes of Atsu and Ritchie and Mitrovic and Perez, let them do the bits going forward and let them do that. Keep your shape behind it. You can't just abuse the fact that Preston are, they think they're a lesser team. Then they've got to give them respect after the first half performance. They've got players who can hurt them.
Browning heads the ball forward for Preston North End. That was the voice of the former England international Steve Stone, who's with us here at St James's Park tonight. That was a poor challenge by Shelvey and Barkhuizen, and it's shown a yellow card, and quite rightly so. Free kick to Preston.
I think maybe Rafa needs to have a little look about getting somebody in front of Barkhuizen on this left-hand side. Poor Vernita is left by himself one-on-one, and Barkhuizen is very, very quick, inside or outside, doesn't mind which way he goes, and he probably needs a little bit of protection at the minute for 5-10 minutes.
A rash challenge. It's presented Preston with a free kick 30 yards out from goal. It's fractionally left as centre. They're attacking the old Leesy's end, and it's going to be Gallagher. Hands on hips, comes forward now, right-footed, into the wall. Ritchie then will bring it clear and away for Newcastle United. Gallagher, though, slides in and forces the ball out of play for a Newcastle United throw. But there's a Newcastle player down at the moment, and it's Mitrovic. So the referee will just check on the Serbian to make sure he's okay. But he's a tough lad, and he'll be able to continue. And Newcastle have a throw. But it's not been straightforward, has it?
No, it's not been straightforward. I actually believe Newcastle are making it more difficult than they actually need to be. If if you're winning 2-1 and the opposition do drop off to 30-40 yards outside the box, yes, keep it and work it, work the angles, work it as much as you can until you actually find the right pass. You don't actually need to force it. The crowd are getting impatient at times and aren't helping the situation and getting on the players' backs, but they've got to be strong enough out there to realise that if they're going to go forward and if they're going to come out of their holes, they're going to leave big spaces behind, and that's what Preston are good at.
Rafa Benitez in his programme notes congratulating the former Newcastle manager Chris Hughton on Brighton's achievement already of being promoted, as Preston nicely play the ball through the midfield. McGeady's going to shoot from distance, blocked by the legs of Lascelles. Loose ball now with Atsu. The bounce actually deceived him and took the ball back and behind him as he then finds Dummett. But of course a Newcastle victory would mean that any hopes of Brighton winning the title tonight are on hold. It would take Newcastle to 88 points behind Brighton and Hove Albion as the ball is forward. Anita gets in front of Barkhuizen to head it away. Ritchie.
The players aren't sure whether to attack or just keep the ball on the Newcastle players. They're just not really sure what to actually do, because they realise when they do give the ball away, they're going to get counter-attacked.
There's certainly no shortage of pace in this Preston side, particularly with Barkhuizen on this near side, as Shelby will switch it to Clark, who passes the ball out towards Dummett on that far side. Mitrovic drops deep, plays it back to Hayden. Newcastle United trying to control things in the midfield as we approach the hour mark here on a chilly Tyneside, where it's 2-1 to Newcastle United. They took the lead early. Hugel, though, equalised after 14 minutes, and then a mistake by Preston, punished on the counter-attack, and Atsu's goal is the difference between the two sides on the stroke of half-time. Hayden to Perez, right corner of the penalty area. Perez will send over the cross. Atsu tries to head it back. They're appealing that it struck the arm of Browning. Didn't look at all deliberate for the Everton loanee. And it's cleared by Preston towards Johnson. Takes it into his feet nicely. Turns in the centre circle. Inside his own half. Gallagher, brief touch. Huntington, the central defender, to spur the left back. Now back inside to Johnson, short of the halfway line. Preston playing in all yellow. Over the halfway line he comes. Spurs continued his run on this near side to left. Hugel has his heels rattled by Lascelles, and the referee will give a free kick to the away team.
Well, you can understand why Lascelles is trying to be physical with him, because Hugel's been the dominant force up front all night. He's bullied the two centre-halves, and they'd like to just be a little bit more forceful with him. I've seen Kieran Clark with one just earlier in the second half. He was forceful with him as well. Obviously, Rafa's had a word at half-time. Get up against him, make it difficult for him. Don't let him come off you and make it easy. He's given a free kick away, and you're in a very dangerous position. And we've seen Gallagher in the first half. He delivers great balls into the box. He's got one here which he's going to in-swing.
About 10 yards in from the left touchline, playing from right to left. They've got that line out on the edge of the penalty area. It's a ball, though, that drops straight towards the goalkeeper, Rob Elliott. Brings it under control. But unlike Maxwell in the first half, who'd looked for the early distribution from the Preston goalkeeper, Elliott just waits and then actually drops the ball inside his own penalty area and sends every black and white striped shirt forward. But if you could feel the tension in the first half now, there's almost like a nervous silence inside St James's Park.
It's as if the players just want the game to end right now. They're just thinking, we know this is going to be a difficult second half from us. We know if we attack up.
The back pass by Spur, and he got stuck underneath Maxwell's feet, and he also almost had an Enkelman moment where he couldn't, almost bypass, went through into the goal. It was a real scare. Eventually he cleared the ball away. But it's not the atmosphere that you'd expect for a side that's going to get promoted.
Because they've seen it before.
Atsu. Maybe they'll start to celebrate if they can get a third goal as Atsu makes headway down the left-hand side. It's held up by Browning, goes on the outside. Browning then, who's on a yellow card, has to make a well-timed challenge in the penalty area.
Oh, it's a great tackle by Browning. He's been backed up into the box by Atsu. He looks like he's a little bit square on, but he moves his feet really well to poke a toe out and give away a corner. But great defending from you, right, on a yellow card. Very difficult to do. Atsu's very quick, shifts the ball left and right at times. Real burst of pace. But this is another opportunity for Newcastle. They've got Shelby, who's going to deliver an in-swinger this time. This is where Newcastle have really been getting their best joy, I believe, from the first half.
Shelby's corner, flicked on, able to turn. Hayden, Maxwell's off his line. And Newcastle United, from what was a poor corner, They've got a second corner kick.
Just seemed like Hayden had the freedom of the penalty box, didn't it? He just had ages. They certainly don't like these balls coming into the box from the corners. Definitely the quality is decent most of the times.
This time Shelvey plays it short. Atsu back to John Joe Shelvey. In comes the cross now. Maxwell's come and lost it. Comes out to Ritchie. Ritchie's shot charged down by McGeady. Loops behind for a corner kick.
Well, the
Newcastle.
The pressure's starting to build, isn't it? Shelvey realised he put a poor ball in for the first corner. Plays a little short one. Makes a better angle. Plays it from the corner of the box and whips one right on top of the goalkeeper. Goalkeeper, I thought, actually did really well to come back through a body of players there and take it off his centre-half's heads.
In the 63rd minute, it's a corner kick this time on the right-hand side. Ritchie to take it. Headed away, the acrobatic overhead kick, beaten out, turned back in. And there's a handball. And Newcastle United have a penalty. And Gallagher, I think, is the player who's been sent off. Straight red. It is Gallagher. Gallagher has been dismissed, saving the ball on the goal line. So they're down to 10 men, and Newcastle United now have an opportunity from the penalty spot to get the third goal, to give them a 2-goal cushion, and a cushion that might well propel them back to the Premier League. Steve Stone.
Well, Newcastle's best passage of play has always come from the set players we talked about. They've had 3 in a row there, caused them all sorts of problems. The goalkeeper once again came for a ball, missed it, went back onto his line. There was carnage in the box, really. And Gallagher right away, you see him try to dive across, and we've seen it straight away. He's trying to pretend he's used his chest to do it, but he's handballed it, and he's had to go for that because he's right on the line. Gallagher's played really well for them as well. He's been instrumental in sitting in front of that back four, and this is a massive opportunity now for Newcastle.
Matt Ritchie waits. It's in front of the Gallagher end. Penalty for Newcastle United, who lead by 2-1. Ritchie runs up now, beats the goalkeeper. They have a 2-goal cushion. They lead by 3-1, and Newcastle United are set for an immediate return to the Premier League.
Well, you could just sense the relief from the fans all over the ground, haven't you? It's as if they thank God it's gone in. They've been poor even in the second half when they've come out. Preston have actually defended really well. We've talked about how good Newcastle have been from set plays. Once again, it's paid off, causing carnage. Good movement in the box. Keepers try to comfort stuff and not really got a hold of stuff all night. It's caused them problems once again.
Now the Newcastle United players might start to have an atmosphere where the supporters will relish and savour the occasion rather than the tension-filled 65 minutes that have so far been present here at St James's Park. The cry is, we are going up, and a certain Shay Given, I would imagine, is sitting rather comfortably back in the studio.
Oh, it's a massive goal. Just you can the tension, the relief around the stadium, you can feel across the airwaves. Unbelievable. And then great credit to Matt Ritchie. So much composed over the penalty. It was a pressure penalty, and he stuck it away in the bottom corner. Keeper no chance, and you can hear the famous atmosphere now at St James's. Fantastic.
You certainly can hear it, and it's coming from all 4 sides inside St James's Park. And Matt Ritchie, who won the championship with Bournemouth in 2015, he scored 16 goals that year. It's Sweet 16 once again, and it's certainly a sweet feeling if you're a Newcastle United supporter. 3-1, and the 3 points surely safe that they craved to take them back to the top flight of English football, Steve Stone.
Well, the atmosphere we've talked about as they came out for the second half, it was eerie. It was as if, which way is this game going to go? Newcastle going to get the goal and go on and win this comfortably, or Preston going to hit them on the counter-attack? Newcastle have got the goal, and you fully expect them to go on now. They're down to 10 men Preston. Newcastle should just keep the ball, work the angles at every opportunity. Once again, Atsu's down this left-hand side. He's got another corner. It's been all night with the set plays. It was some of the other games I've come to as well this season. The set plays have been excellent. The centre-halves really attack the ball and really try to get it, but it's the quality of the delivery from the likes of Ritchie and the likes of Shelvey that made the difference.
That eerie silence that we talked about has gone now. The supporters can breathe that sigh of relief. The supporters can now start to enjoy the next 24 minutes. As Shelvey with another corner kick, fired in, it's all the way in, and it's ducked in by Perez. It actually bounced in off the right-hand post, and there was Perez, and the party's underway as Newcastle lead Preston by 4-1.
Well, once again, it's a set play that's coming in. Shelby's absolutely tried to whip it in as hard as he could. A couple of great runs that's taken some defenders away. That's occupied the two centre-halves. Everybody's missed it. Perez has tried to tap it into the back post. He's in the right position. It bounces off the post. I don't think he knows anything about whatsoever, and it bounces in the back of the net. Newcastle just looked dominant. It settled everybody down. The nerves from the players on the pitch to the fans and the atmosphere in the stadium. This is game over.
4-1 to Newcastle United. Gouffran's now going to be coming on. They're going to be making a change. It's Christian Atsu who's coming off. But you have to say that this is not a fair reflection on the game.
No, I mean, if we looked at the first half, Preston were well drilled, well disciplined, realised that they try and catch Newcastle on the counter-attack, realised that if they got the ball wide, they could deliver, and the two centre-halves were struggling to deal with the centre-forward, Hugill. But saying that, Preston have caused their own problems by giving the ball away twice in the middle of the park, and Newcastle have been able to counter-attack on them once, just before half-time, which put a massive difference on the game, and then to give a penalty away, which probably wasn't needed. And now they're down to 10 men. You can just sense that they're going to be deflated, and really they've got to try and keep the score down now. And it was 6 earlier in the season in the Cup. It could go to that now. It's going to be very, very difficult last, 22 minutes for them.
1979 was the last time that Newcastle actually lost to Preston. That was at Deepdale. There was a general election also that year, and that, of course, was the year that Trevor Francis was the first £1 million footballer. The question is, Newcastle will certainly be having to dig a lot deeper than that if they're to strengthen their playing squad for next season, because now, Shay, there's no way back for Preston. Newcastle, I would imagine, we can really now start to focus on an immediate return.
Yeah, 100%. It's game over now. 4-1 with 10 men as well. Preston, it's a massive goal. I mean, it's poor defending from Preston. It should have been cleared at the near post, and John Joe Shelby's corner has gone all the way off the back post, and Steve Stone's in, hit Perez and gone over the line. So I'm sure there'll be a huge party tonight in Newcastle, and I'm sure Rafa tomorrow morning will be focusing on next season.
What time are you leaving Salford to get up here?
Taxi's booked.
just over 20 minutes remaining. 08085 909 and 693 to speak to Shay Given, Steve Stone and Mark Chapman through until 10 o'clock. As now Rafa Benitez will acknowledge the crowd. The Raffolution, as it's been described in this part of the world. And this statistic actually is from the respected Northeast writer Martin Hardy, so if it's wrong, you can bombard him on social media, but Martin recently said that Newcastle bidding to be only the second team out of the last 18 relegated to gain automatic promotion. Burnley the other. But again, perspective required, because that's all it's about, isn't it, for Newcastle? Just to get back up there, because as you know, the Championship is a real slog.
Yeah, it's a very difficult league to play in, and I've played it. It's really, really hard. There's so many gums come thick and fast games, and Newcastle got the biggest squad to deal with it.
Here is Ritchie. Newcastle leading by 4-1. 20 minutes remain. Ritchie back with Anita. Hayden chips the ball in, gets the ball back. Anita gets it off his left foot, blocked by Brown. Won't go out of play for a corner kick. Perez will let it go out of play for a throw. We mentioned the number, or I mentioned the number. Where do Newcastle need to strengthen to stay in the Premier League? And I'd just be fascinated to know what, as a Newcastle supporter, what your expectations would be for next season. And do you believe that Rafa will get the financial backing that he needs in the summer, as everybody around us here in St James's Park stands to their feet as Perez, Mitrovic tried to chip it left-footed over the bar, goal kick.
Well, Newcastle are turning on the style now, aren't they? Playing a little 1-2, giving goes on the edge of the box, trying to find the angles. Mitrovic just cuts on his left foot there, really should put his foot through it, tries to find the top corner with a cute little flick, and it goes way over the bar. But we've just talked about there, well, you've just mentioned that, what do Newcastle need next season? And I still believe, even on this performance, with the most of their top players out there, what they've got in the squad, you still believe that they need an awful lot, don't they? Hopefully with better players bringing in the likes of, Kieran Clark and Ritchie and Shelby and Gale, that these players will come on even further.
But as you know and Shay knows, the expectation levels are so high here. The Newcastle supporters, who had great nights in Europe, can remember the Champions League night here against Barcelona and the Esprilla hat-trick. They will be expecting for Newcastle to be pushing for Europe.
Well, they expect that every time they come to watch a game. It doesn't matter who. I think the fans realise that they're not going to go and win the league. They're not going to be in the top 4. They'll struggle to get in the top 10. But as long as they put a good effort in next season and work hard for the side and they're going in the right direction, then that'll be a great start. They need to make sure they get a foothold in this league. Otherwise, they're going to become a bit of a yo-yo team, even for Newcastle.
Substitutions been made by Simon Grayson. Aidan McGeady on loan from Sheffield Wednesday has made way. Darryl Horgan, who's a 24-year-old midfielder, an Irish lad brought in from Dundalk in January, has come onto the field of play. And he once again has gone out onto that far side, the number 7 with his short blonde hair, as Newcastle United, leading 4-1, are on the attack. And we have 17.5 minutes remaining as Mitrovic towards Shelvey, back towards Mitrovic, stopped by Johnson on the edge of the penalty area, and Johnson will turn and then actually faces back his own goalkeeper with a back pass, and Maxwell strikes it away downfield. Lascelles and Clark between them will tidy up and back towards Rob Elliott. 17 minutes to go, and Newcastle lead by 4 goals to 1, which means that Huddersfield, when they take on Wolves tomorrow, will just have to be content with a playoff place, because that is their game in hand. They still had a mathematical chance of catching Newcastle, but realistically only the most pessimistic of Newcastle supporters would have thought that they were not going to get over their line with their points tally of 85 with 3 games to go. As Gouffron, one of the substitutes for Newcastle, back with Shelvey, cut out by Browning. Browning's given the ball away, straight towards Hayden, towards Ritchie. Mitrovic was flat-footed, and Huntington will clear, but Mitrovic charges it down, and out of play it goes for a throw. So Newcastle United, for the second time since they were relegated to the Championship, making an immediate return. Of course, in 2010 they were unbeaten at home, and they returned as champions with a huge total of 102 points. But they had a dressing room, a real core spirit, with players such as Steve Harper, Joey Barton, Kevin Nolan, who are absolutely instrumental in getting Newcastle United back. You question whether Newcastle have that same spirit this time around. However, they are making an immediate return, which is to their credit. And Rafa Benitez, who was appointed last March, and when he signed that 3-year deal, said in his programme notes tonight, now is not the time to dwell on the things that are not perfect. Now is the time to get going. And Newcastle certainly have, as his name is being sung once again. And Jack Colback is going to be coming on for Newcastle United very soon, as Shelvey to Gouffron. Brown makes the challenge. Newcastle United in control. Steve Stone.
Yeah, we're just talking about that team that got promoted with Newcastle last time, was full of experienced older heads, Steve Harper and the likes, Joey Barton. That was not being disrespectful, but it was an older team, wasn't it?
Yeah.
This is a younger, developing team that is going to. Some of these guys are going to have to try and pit the wits in the Premier League for the first time, really. And the likes of Lascelles, is he going to get the opportunity to go and try that? He had a brief spell at the end of last year when they got relegated. There's players like him who've had a year in the Championship now and developed, and will Rafa keep them and use them and build other players around? Hayden's another one he's coming to the team this year. It's his first real season of proper football. There's players in this team who are younger, who are starting to develop, and then they're going to need help next season by some older, experienced players. That might cost a few quid, I'm afraid. And that's the difference between the last time they went up and this side. It'll be interesting to see how they get on.
Well, if you've got your thoughts on the way forward, you'll be able to dissect them with Steve and Shay as Jack Colback comes on for John Joe Shelvey, who gets a standing ovation here at St James's Park with 14 minutes remaining. Newcastle United leading by 4 goals to 1. And Hugel, it won't stick this time. And Preston haven't been the same level of threat as they were in the first half.
Oh, absolutely no chance. I mean, they were trying to actually just stay behind the ball. They were trying to play the same tactics that they had in the first half, to get everybody behind the ball, trying them on the counter-attack. They did it a couple of times, but without the same success as they did in the first half. Newcastle got the crucial goal, and that really just killed them off, especially when the man got sent off. They had absolutely no chance of coming back into this game. The way that Newcastle actually keep the ball, they don't even really need to try and go forward at times. They've got such a numerical advantage in the way they keep it. You couldn't see them really ever getting back in. It was game over.
So Newcastle United, who, despite their recent stutter, A little bit of a mini stutter. They're just the one defeat in their last 11 home matches. That was against a very classy Fulham side since Boxing Day, and Fulham certainly would be a team that you hear supporters of Championship clubs saying they're the ones to fear.
Yep, definitely. I've seen them on a few occasions, and they've got real ability. The lad Craney, who plays the number 10 role, has got all sorts of ability.
Ritchie with a cross, stopped by Brown at the near post, comes back to Perez. Didn't seem to know too much about it when it rebounded off the post from Shelvey's corner for the fourth goal, but of course he's on a hat-trick as Clark now will come forward. Real chill in the air on Tyneside. This time last year you'd have said that was the draft of the trapdoor to the Premier League, but instead what it is, it's the door reopening back towards England's top flight for Newcastle United, ready to dine once again on the top table. Ritchie, right hand side, leading 4-1, scoops the ball into the penalty area, off the chest by Hayden, lifts it into the penalty area. Gouffran is there, taken away by Mitrovic by Brown, comes out towards Clark. Preston now can't get out. Every yellow shirt in and around their own penalty area. Hayden's actually stayed down at the moment. He's sitting in the penalty box. Every outfield player is in the Preston half, and Newcastle completely dictating the closing stages. I would suggest that next 12 minutes could feel extremely long for Preston North End. Here's Ritchie, right hand side. Hayden still down, and in the end it's his cross at the back of Hayden that is caught by the goalkeeper Maxwell.
Well, you can see when Newcastle do so well this season, it's the likes of Shelvey that gets on the ball, who's now gone off and tries to dictate the play. The likes of Hayden tries to stay around him and make sure he does all the donkey work and get the ball to Shelvey. But it's the wide player in Ritchie who's caused loads of problems this season, and he's delivered all sorts of great quality in the box. Not only has he scored goals this season at crucial games, at crucial times, he's delivered quality into the box from the wide area, one-on-one and from set plays, and he's been a massive player for them this season.
Perez to Gouffran, just in from the left touchline, and another corner kick has been awarded to Newcastle United. The atmosphere is again completely different to say when Brighton were on the verge of promotion, but then again the expectation levels are different as well, because the Newcastle supporters, and it's a terrific achievement for Brighton, but the Newcastle supporters expect to be here.
Well, that's the difference, isn't it? They expect to be there. You've seen they've dined at the top table many times for many years, and played in Champions League stuff without actually winning anything, has got to be noted. That's what Newcastle have struggled to do.
Ritchie with a cross from the left hand side, good header away by Huntington. The referee has spotted a push there. It'll be a free kick to Preston.
And it's also, can we just say also, it's been a long time since Newcastle have been right at the top of that, the top echelons of the Premier League as well. You know, you go back to the Alan Shearers and the Kevin Keegan's days and stuff like that, and the Champions League. That's been quite a while now. It's been since Shea was here and stuff, and
yeah,
it has been a while, hasn't it?
They were fifth under Alan Pardew, weren't they, for one season?
Yeah, and I was there as well, so I'll take that. Yeah.
I was going to say, you've been very modest there. I wondered why you dug me in the ribs there. No, you didn't really.
But on a consistent basis, where they've spent money and they've actually been challenging, year in, year out. It's been since probably Bobby Robson left, really, hasn't it? When they were finishing, I think they finished 4th or 5th one year, and they didn't make the Champions League, and that was the start of it.
Ball over the top. Ritchie switched to the left-hand side, level the penalty area now. Newcastle 4-1 up, heading back to the Premier League. Perez can't control the ball. Johnson will clear. Barkhusen actually gives the ball back to Johnson just where he didn't want it, and he's been tackled by Perez inside the D, and a free kick. And again, Preston making their own problems, and they want to take the free kick quickly inside that D, and the referee Andrew Madley will say no, but it's a direct free kick, and this is within shooting distance.
Well, it's right in shooting distance. It's on the edge of the D. It's 19-20 yards out. Straight away, Ritchie's gone for the ball. Gouffran's trying to get a bit of action on it because he's coming as a sub, wants to get a shot on target or a goal. But there's no way that anybody is going to take this off Ritchie. I can tell you right now, he's having this. Rez on the hat-tricks all of a sudden come over as well, though. He's trying to think, come on, give us a go.
Well, Perez is there. There's Mitrovic. It's Ritchie to take it quickly. The referee, though, blows his whistle. And as Ritchie wants to celebrate, the referee says no.
Oh, he's booking him as well.
And
That's
he's been booked.
Poor.
So Ritchie's been booked.
Well, the referee did have his back to play. He's obviously blown his whistle because they tried to take a quick one just before that. He'd mentioned to Ritchie that you can't take it till the whistle is blown. Great bit of thinking though, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Well, he actually tried to take a quicker free kick before this time, and Andrew Madley's now Richie walks away. He hadn't even applied the vanishing spray, hadn't the match official. Richie now comes back. He thinks, no, I will have another dig. Mitrovic is there. Perez has walked away. They're eyeing it up. Preston have everybody back. Newcastle United lead 4-1. It's Mitrovic, scoops it over the top, over the bar, goal kick, still 4-1.
There's a reason why Mitrovic shouldn't have been on that free kick. His technique was poor. He's looked as if he's a centre-forward who's wanted to try and get in on the action and get a goal. No conviction in the run-up, tries to just clip one over the bar. You've got Richie who's standing there, and he could just whiz it in with his left foot with power and pace. And it's a poor effort. But he's only allowed to do that because they're 4-1 up.
Well, Perez will not get the hat-trick. He's scored 2 goals in Newcastle's 4 tonight. And he will make way for Daryl Murphy, who was promoted with Sunderland when they won the title back in 2007. And the 34-year-old, a decade later, is going to be able to add another promotion to his CV as the Irish international comes on for the last 7 minutes of normal time.
Well, Perez this season hasn't had the greatest of seasons in terms of he's had a few injuries. He's struggled with his form because of the lack of football that he's actually had to play. But one of the criticisms is he's a number 10, and as a number 10 you have to create and score goals, and tonight he scored goals, so he can be well pleased with his night's work. He sometimes doesn't work hard enough, but the last 2 games I've seen him down here against Leeds, his tempo was really good. He really got stuck and really fought and worked for the team, and he has to do that first and foremost, and he's put a good display in tonight as well.
4-1 against a Preston North End side that well, I think the turning point was on the stroke of half-time when they were punished on the counter-attack, because it was very even that first half. It caused Newcastle United problems, but it was a sucker punch really to then go in to the interval 2-1 down, and in the second half Newcastle United have been in control, and they've been the dominant force as Barkhuizen to Johnson, and chipping the ball to spur the left back towards Barkhuizen. Hayden gives away a foul. Free kick to Preston North End. Steve?
Well, he's got to be careful there. Hayden's probably just tripped him up there, but also Richie's come on the back of it as well. He's just been booked as well, so Hayden obviously owned up to it straight away, so Richie wasn't to get involved and get another booking. Richie was obviously disappointed at the fact it's been given in another dangerous area, but really this game's over and they just need to see it out. And forgetting to talk about the performance of Preston North End and all the rest of it, this is really the night where Newcastle cement themselves in the Premier League, and this should be celebrated. The crowd should be on a high. It's still a little bit flat, it's still a little bit edgy, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's a weird atmosphere for a team that is going to get promoted.
It's going to be a free kick which is curled in by Horgan, but there was a foul inside that penalty area. Yeah, it is still muted inside St James's Park after the initial excitement of the third and fourth goals that were scored so close together, in fact 3 minutes apart, has subsided. 08085 909 and 693. Newcastle supporters, do you think that Rafa Benitez will be backed? Where does he need to strengthen, and what are your expectations for the start of next season? 08085 909 and 693. And don't forget, throughout 5 Live this week, we'll be building up to the big fight. You'll be able to hear exclusively live on 5 Live as well as the BBC Sport website. And on Wednesday, we'll have further live football for you too. Crystal Palace against Tottenham, live from Selhurst Park as Anita. And I'm sure it'll be a passionate affair at Selhurst Park. It's one of the most atmospheric grounds in the Premier League. Dummett infield to Colback, the substitute. Colback, Gouffran back with the former Sunderland player. It's a left-footed cross in the penalty area and gathered in by back-pedalling Maxwell with 4 minutes remaining. And Rafa Benitez looks a lot calmer and a lot more relaxed, Steve Stone. You've been down there, you know how it can feel, how pressurised.
Yeah, you can. The cauldron is right down there on the sideline. And the problem is when you're a manager or a coach and you've played yourself at this level, you can't affect anything. Your players have gone out there, you try to tactically set them up, you do your work all week, but once they've gone out there, you've only got half time to try and really change things, because once they're on the pitch, to try and get messages on could be very, very difficult at times. And Rafa probably needed half time to come along, even if it was going to be 1-1, to try and sort this issue out where Preston were counter-attacking on them. He's got it sorted, got the goal just before half time, and now He looks a little bit settled. He's still out there, though. He's still orchestrating his team, making sure everything's solid, getting people in their shape, which is what any good coach will do.
Well, he's galvanised the club as well, I think, behind the scenes.
Well, I just think he cuts a relaxed figure, as if he knows what he's doing. He hasn't been worried by the fact that he's changed the team around a lot. For the first 10-15 games, he probably didn't realise what his best sort of side was. He was figuring it out, but he wasn't flopping. You know, they got beat away at Fulham on the opening night of the season, a Friday night I think it was, which was live on the TV, and they were awful that night, but there was no panic from Rafa. Just went about his business. We're probably about 10th, 11th, 12th up until about 8 or 9 games, and then they started to regress up the league once he found what his best team was. And he's definitely got, you know, with the quality that he's got in this team and the budget that he's got and the support, he's definitely got. He should have went up. Of course he should. People complained actually that if they don't go up as champions, there'll be failure. Totally disagree with that. This is just about getting out of this league and getting back in the big league.
Well, it's the name of Rafa Benitez that reverberates around St James's Park, and it will continue to do so, I'm sure, in the bars over the coming weeks. Certainly tonight, at least, with 2 and a bit minutes remaining of normal time, because Newcastle United are heading back to the Premier League. The North East hasn't had much to shout about this season. Sunderland and Middlesbrough look like they're going to drop out of the top flight. Hartlepool United, who have... Dave Jones has departed the club today as their manager Matthew Bates is in temporary charge, could easily drop out of the Football League now that they're in the bottom 2, overtaken by Newport County at the weekend. And Darlington might not even be able to get promotion as well from their league as well because of a problem with their stadium. So the North East has had to deal with setbacks this season, but for Newcastle United, they're heading back towards the Premier League. As Colback out towards Gouffran, and it's only a matter of time before those celebrations can really start in earnest. As Dummett joins the attack, Mitrovic with a turn and shot, blocked by Huntington just inside the penalty area. Horgan will bring the ball clear for Preston North End, and Horgan wins it back. As a spectacle, it hasn't really been, or as a contest, it hasn't been much of a spectacle in this second half.
Well, I thought we thoroughly enjoyed the first half, especially the tactical battle that was going on between the two managers and the two teams. It was interesting just to sit up here to see how they were going to deal with it, especially Rafa, top coach, to see if he could get them in at half-time and organise, especially his midfield, to try and make sure they weren't getting counter-attacked. But the goal before half-time changed all that, and Newcastle just seemed a little bit more settled. Crowd have been edgy because they've realised so many times before that Newcastle have been that sucker punch. Leeds in the last game where they were 1-0 up and they totally dominated the game. Leeds scored in the last kick of the game, and they've got that in the back of their minds, and that's why they were edgy.
4-1 to Newcastle United. An immediate return to the Premier League, and it's all eyes on the fourth official as Mitrovic sliding into the penalty area couldn't then get back to his feet to try and create a goal-scoring opportunity, and Spur will clear, as we'll find out how much added on time there will be as the ball is given away cheaply by Anita. Hugel tries to play in Horgan. Dummett, though, was alive to the danger, and as was Clark to head it away. And here comes the fourth official. And this is how long we'll find out before Newcastle United have to wait before the confirmation of their place back in the Premier League. And just the 2 minutes. And once again, cue the Newcastle United supporters to rise to their feet in the Gallagate end. Promotion party in full swing. Colback, although not that much in full swing, as a couple of supporters head for the exits. To our right, pull back, Gouffran! Turn wide, Maxwell got his hands on it.
Absolutely couldn't see anything, the people leaving blocked my view. Can't believe people are actually leaving when the team's just about to be promoted. They're all gone.
But that underlines our point, though, doesn't it? Because I'm sure at the Amex, when Brighton were there, they'd have stayed, they'd have milked the celebrations. Here you've got Newcastle supporters, some of them heading for the exits, despite the fact that they're going back to the top flight. In comes the corner. It was a fierce drive by Gouffran, and it was turned behind by Maxwell. Good strong wrists. We're inside the last 60 seconds. Newcastle United 4, Preston North End 1. Colback, the flame-haired midfielder. Gallagate end in full voice. Mitrovic waits. Colback back towards Mitrovic once again. Mitrovic to Colback, right corner of the penalty area. Preston have everybody back. Anita on the overlap, crosses towards the far post, punched away by Maxwell. Header coming in by Mitrovic over the top, loops behind for a goal kick, and that might well be the final bit of action. 4-1 Newcastle.
Well, I was just going to say before, Mitrovic actually got the ball in the box. He actually never looks like he's actually come for. Looks like he's never going to actually score. The balls came out 15 yards. He's got the goals gaping. He doesn't get anywhere near it again.
Just seen one elderly gentleman just nudge somebody in the shoulder, and he says, well, we're up anyway. And they were his parting words.
Well, that's what it's like. And they're all leaving behind the goal. But it's, you know, and that is the situation. They don't believe that they actually deserve to be in this division, but they are.
There is the final whistle. And the Newcastle fans will hail the Rapolution. They will hail Rafa Benitez, because Newcastle United are back in the big time. They've beaten Preston North End by 4-1. Yedlin and Atsu embrace. The black and white scarves are held aloft, and Newcastle United make an immediate return to the Premier League.
Well, that's what you call an efficient performance in terms of grinding the opposition down. Preston were in that game for long periods of time, especially on the counter-attack that caused the two Newcastle centre-halves all sorts of problems. Anita had a bit of a torrid time in the first half, not being able to deal with the wide men. But once they got the goal just before half-time, when Atsu hit her on the counter-attack, it always looked like Newcastle were going to go on. They got the penalty with Richie just slotted in lovely. And it just, Newcastle just was total control after that. Now is the time to buy and build and make sure this club doesn't have to play in this division again.
Listen to the roar if Rafa Benitez, after embracing his coaching staff, now makes his way out onto the pitch. Rafa Benitez strides out onto the playing surface. He looks right and applauds the Gallagate end. Clenched fist, and acknowledges all four sides of St James's Park as the Newcastle players in their black and white striped shirts are hugging each other and embracing inside the centre circle. But it's the name of Rafa Benitez that rings around this famous stadium. And Rafa Benitez deserves the credit and deserves the plaudits.
He does, yeah, and it does help. The fans absolutely adore him here, and they did right from the start. Even when Rafa came in, it was 10 games to go last season. They got relegated. Rafa not to blame for that, obviously coming in a difficult situation. But they've given the back in this season supporters. They chant his name throughout the game. There's that corner section at the Gallagher end that absolutely starts it off and loves him. And he's been backed by the supporters. When things have gone against, it's been the players. When things have gone well, it's Rafa. They want him to stay here. They know he's a big name manager. They know he's a class act. He's had a calmness about him throughout the whole season. He's never panicked. And he's got Newcastle back to where they belong in the Premier League. But he knows now he needs money. This will be an interesting summer to see whether he gets the money that he deserves to try and put this club back where it belongs.
When he came in last March, he stayed in a city centre hotel. And he would speak to the hotel staff, and he had high hopes that they might well be able to pull it off, as we have one pitch invader coming on, trying to interrupt a TV interview, which he's managed to succeed. But he gets the city, and the city get him. Yeah, very similar to Merseyside.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, he's been at Liverpool before. He understands the culture. They're both massive footballing cities. The people of Newcastle live for their football club. The mood is reflected within the city to what happens to the football club, and he got that, and he understands that, and he plays to that sometimes in his interviews and all the rest of it. He always mentions the supporters. He's very clever at what he does, and he does get it. You're right.
Well, Mark, the players continue to acknowledge the crowd here at St James's Park. Newcastle beating Preston 4-1.
It feels a little bit more like a promotion party now. It probably didn't in the last 10 minutes of the game itself, Steve Stone.
No, it didn't. It was just because they knew they'd gone up, they knew they'd won. There was no real excitement towards the end. It was sort of a little bit of an anticlimax. Newcastle supporters aren't used to this. They always do it the hard way. There's always something that comes up towards the end of the game, like the Leeds game. But listen, they've got over the line. They've worked hard all season. It's a very, very, very difficult league to get out of, but they've got the quality, they've got the squad to do it, and they've managed to get there. It's all now about building.
Can I just say, Mark, that Rafa Benitez at the moment is actually standing right in front of the goal, in front of the Gallagate end. The scarves, the black and white flags, and the supporters serenading Rafa Benitez, who now shakes hands with the ball boys. And this is the response to the popular Spaniard. The players have left the pitch. It's Rafa Benitez, with the exception of Matt Ritchie, who's out there on his own. And he's again walking back out to the centre and continues to acknowledge all four sides here, Mark.
Shay Given.
Well, it's amazing scenes. I mean, Rafa Benitez has got them back to the Premier League, and as Steve Stone just said, the fans love him up there, and I'm sure he's getting an extra special sort of applause as well, because they want him to stay there for the long-term future of the club. They want to build in the Premier League. They think that with him at the helm, he's going to be the man to do that, and you know, hopefully what Rafa feels tonight, he'll feel after the next 4 or 5 years at Newcastle, and you know, the fans will really stay behind Rafa and the team.
If I was going to be slightly cynical, which obviously isn't in my nature, but if I was Steve Stone, I would be saying Rafa Benitez here is sending out a very powerful message to the owner of this football club, as look who the fans are behind here, look who the fans want at this club.
And he's been doing that all season. He's mentioned, he's mentioned the fans in all his interviews, but they've taken to him as well. They've loved him right from the start, and he's reciprocated that. He's gone back out there. He's nearly just done a lap of honour by himself. If you've looked, he's nearly done a lap of honour by himself. The players have gone off the pitch. You're right, he's went over there and he said, listen, these fans love me. I'm the man. Give me some money.
He's the closest thing, I don't know if Stephen Shea would agree with this, I think he's the closest thing to Kevin Keegan.
Yeah, well, without a shadow,
I think so.
She'll know that.
I think as Stoney says, he's in such a strong position because the fans worship him. And the thing is, maybe past managers under Mike Ashley have not been in such a strong position. So now it's down to what money he gets to spend in the summer to strengthen the squad.
Well, you mentioned, Ian, he's the closest thing they've had to Kevin Keegan. You quoted a Martin Hardy stat earlier, a journalist in the North East. I've got one from his Twitter feed as well, which is really interesting. After 43 games, so prior to this game, Rafa Benitez's Newcastle had 85 points and has scored 76 goals. Kevin Keegan's side in 92-93 had 87 points from their 43 games, so only 2 points more, and had scored 5 goals more. So actually, there's in amongst all this talk about whether they're good enough for the Premier League and this, that and the other and what they'll have to do, the seasons have been remarkably similar to that Keegan side.
Yes, yeah, but I was talking more about how Benitez has transformed the city and his draw, and what he's done is galvanised the city of Newcastle. You know yourself from when you've been up here in the North East that I do believe that Newcastle is unique in the sense that it's right in the heart of the city, and when he took charge, the response and the reaction he had from the crowd is the closest thing he's had. He's magnetic.
He's just perceived as if he cares about the place. He's just got everywhere he goes, he gets a massive reception. He's such a popular figure, and everybody is sort of drawn to him. I think the Newcastle fans, what they realise is they've got a special manager here. They were probably quite lucky to get him in the timing of when they got him. He was available. He just left Real Madrid. This was a big opportunity and a big challenge for him to come to a wonderful football club. I think Newcastle needed Rafa more than Rafa needed Newcastle.
Yes.
But since he's got here, he's realised what this place is all about. And it's a magnetic football club as well. You can get drawn in, you can get sucked into the passion of the city. She'll tell you what it's all about. It's a great football club when things are going well.
We're on 85058 at 5 Live Sport. You can ring us as well, 0808 5909 693. Kieran says, that's it, boys, job done, back where we belong. Steve says, in Rafa we trust. Facts. Abby, I may have to go and wake my son up now to tell him we're going back to the Premier League. And Arvind Ashley needs to get Rafa new players next season as a reward for staying back last season. He can make Newcastle United great again. Let's talk to Alan, who's called us this evening. Where are you, Alan?
I'm at home celebrating.
Oh, and you're a big Newcastle fan, are you?
I got a smile on my face for the first time in a long time.
I was going to say, you're normally miserable most weeks. That's remarkable.
Where are we celebrating? Where are we going? Come on.
Alan Shearer, how important is it they keep Rafa Benitez?
Hugely important. He's a huge figure at the football club. He loves the place. I know he does, having spoke to him. He loves the passion of the fans here. So it's hugely important we keep hold of him, and of course with his backroom staff, he's very, very experienced, and he's done the job he set out to do.
Evening, Al.
Stoney, how are you?
It's Shay.
Sorry, okay, I was listening to Stoney before.
I was just going to ask you, what's the feeling in the city with regards how much money he'll get to spend, to keep them in the Premier League next season and move the club forward? Do you think he's going to get backed, or is that a $1 million question?
I would think that would be key of keeping hold of him as well, because I'm sure he'll demand that the team has to be improved and demand a few quid to do that. So that's what we're all hoping now, because that's what you have to do. You can't stand still for everyone. For anyone, you can't be loyal and give the players or all the players a chance that have got the team promoted. You've got to go out and you've got to buy new players.
You've just tweeted the Premier League's a better place with Newcastle in it, which I think a lot of people would agree with. Maybe not Sunderland and Middlesbrough fans. I don't know. Maybe they would. But then you put now the fun begins. So. Do you mean that as in everything that goes on behind the scenes there, and and this battle to get new players in, or do you just mean general fun of having Newcastle back in the Premier League?
A bit of both, chappers, to be honest, because I'm sure that Rafa will go in and ask for funds to massively improve the team. I think if you've been to a lot of the games this year, then I think people will realise that the team will need improvement to get to the place where they eventually want to get, which has to be top half of the Premier League. So the fun, because the team and the town they deserve Premier League football, and also the fun because I'm sure Rafa will go in and ask for a lot of money, and it'll be interesting to see whether he gets what he wants.
And one final thing, just on how actually, there are people criticising this team and talking about players needed and how they've performed over the course of this season. But when you look at the stats, and we mentioned it earlier, only 2 of the teams relegated from the Premier League since the 09-10 season have come back by winning automatic promotion. Some have gone through the playoffs, but only 2 have gone up automatically, Burnley and now Newcastle. I mean, so therefore the achievement does deserve a huge amount of credit, which at times it doesn't feel like they've got.
No, of course it does. It's that league is a tough league to get out of. It's relentless. You're playing almost every week, 2 or 3 times a week, and it's very, very difficult to get out of. And we've seen that the standard in that league is not great at times. You've got to be dogged, you've got to be determined, you've got to have a certain amount of character, and all the players have shown that for the vast majority of the season, and that's where Rafa's experience has come into it as well. When things weren't going so well, and he didn't panic. They kept on doing the same things as they have been doing, but. It's where Newcastle want to be. What do they want to achieve? Do they want to get up to the Premier League and be in the bottom 3 or bottom 4 fighting relegation all season, or do they want to have a go at it? I'm pretty sure I know what Rafa will want to do.
Go and enjoy your evening and keep smiling.
Cheers, boys.
Thank you. Alan Shearer on 5 Live Sport. Let's talk to Luke, a Newcastle fan who's called us as well. 0808 5909 693. Evening, Luke.
Hello, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Let me just put this point from Danny, who's a season ticket holder, to you. He says, I've been a season ticket holder since '92. Believe me, this is a very, very ordinary team. It says more about the quality in the Championship than the performances of Newcastle this season. I'm resigned to another season of mediocrity and probable relegation next season. Only Gale, Shelvey and Ritchie are capable at a higher level.
Oh, always look on the bright side. But I mean, he has the chap there. I think he has half a point. I think when we came down, Newcastle, for a change, bought very sensibly and bought Championship quality players that have done a fantastic job in kind of Rafa Benitez's squad rotation and keeping sort of 11 decent players fit on the pitch. He has a point. I think Gale, Ritchie, Shelvey are 3 definite ones who can cut the mustard in the Premier League. I think it's important now that Ashley does dip into his pocket again. Otherwise, we do risk becoming a yo-yo club. And I think what Steve said earlier about, I think, when Newcastle we obviously lost the first game against Fulham, and no one panicked, and it wasn't sort of a knee-jerk reaction to let's go and sack Benitez like so many clubs have done in the past with other managers. I think it's really key that he gets the time in the Premier League, because Newcastle being Newcastle, we won't make it easy for ourselves. We will do it the hard way. I think it's key that we don't sort of do it the way we did with Chris Hughton when he took us back up, and I think we got rid of him after a few games. I think Benitez deserves the chance to build that team and to rebuild it into a Premier League team. And I think as Newcastle fans, I freely admit we're often accused of sort of thinking our team should be in the top 5, the top 4, and into the European places. Like, make no mistake about it, I think an achievement for Newcastle next year will be staying up in the Premier League.
And if you had to sign one player for the start of next season, who would you sign?
Do you know what? I'm going to say a bit of a controversial one, but I'm going to go Jermaine Defoe, proven goal scoring.
Very controversial, that look.
It is, but I think Newcastle has proven towards the end of this season we've stuttered our way to promotion. We haven't been able to get the goals, and we need someone who's got proven experience of scoring goals in the Premier League. I honestly don't care what colours he's worn before, so long as he's wearing the black and white. That would be what I care about. As long as he knocks in the goals.
Steve Stone, what do you make of that?
Yeah, no, he's actually he's spot on what he said, not only about the team, the manager, all the rest of it, absolutely spot on. The team does need improving. Defoe has been banded around here, by the way, for the last 4 or 5 months anyway, because of the plight that Sunderland in, the fact that, he probably will leave. He'd be a great signing for Newcastle. There's another one that was been here before as well. I loved Andros Townsend as well when he was here. He played ever so well towards the end of the season that they went down. He's starting to come back into form probably at Palace now. He's somebody who creates, he's exciting, he's what the type of player that Newcastle supporters love to see. And he's effective as well. He scores goals and he creates. But if Palace stay up now, obviously, that's probably one we won't get.
My God, that'd be absolutely bedlam, wouldn't it, if they took Defoe from Sunderland?
I think such is the affinity that Jermaine Defoe has got with Sunderland and its supporters. I'll be absolutely astounded if that was to happen. Sunderland get relegated, he will be leaving the Stadium of Light. The Sunderland fans are resigned to that, but I think he'll be heading back to the capital.
Thank you very much for your call, Luke. Let's bring in Richard, also a Newcastle fan. Evening, Richard.
Evening, gentlemen.
Are you celebrating? Are you positive? Are you more realistic, as some people seem to be? There seems to be a real mix this evening.
Yeah, and I think that balance is right. I would say there's only probably about half that team can cut the mustard in the Premiership, and Ashley will have to back Rafa in the summer. I'm sure actually. Rafa has probably already got a wish list. I'm sure he's already identified some of the players that he would like to get in the side. He's probably also spoken to, the odd agent already. He won't waste any time, I don't think. It's the end of April now. He won't want to hang on into the sort of summer, into June or July. He'll want to get things sorted quickly. He'll want to get the team back pre-season. And ready to go from the off. So, we've just got to hope that Ashley backs him. I've been watching. I didn't see Ashley at all. Any shots of him at the match at all, which is surprising a bit, isn't it?
Ian Dennis, did you see him this evening?
No, I don't. He wasn't. I had a little look behind me in the director's box. I don't think he was here tonight.
Oh well, that's a bit worrying. That's from the point of view that we know deep down he's never been a Newcastle United supporter all his life. He's probably not really much of a football supporter, but as far as business is concerned, surely now he'll see the potential of keeping Newcastle in the Premiership, because, of course, the games in the Premiership go out worldwide now into America and China and so on, and being a businessman, he wants to promote his business. So if he's got any sense, if he takes my advice, he'll back Rafa.
Richard, what would be when teams come up for the first time, and you ask a fan, or even you ask a manager or a player, they often go, well, consolidate, finishing 17th is fine, that's not a problem. I sense Newcastle fans, because of the size of the club, because they've only been down one season, will expect more. What would you consider a successful season next season?
Well, you're spot on with our expectations. What would I expect? I would hope at least mid-table. Look, let's be realistic. The top 7 teams have such spending power and pulling power. We really can't compete with them at the moment. I think for the region, it's been very important that Newcastle have managed to get promotion. Sadly, I think of the other two northeast teams, the writing seems to be on the wall. We need a team in the northeast. We need more a Yorkshire team up there as well. And to be quite honest, we need to, we need to push on. But I think you're right. Halfway would be a satisfactory. The season after we sort of push on in small steps.
OK, Richard, thank you very much for your call. Let me talk to Paul, also a Newcastle fan. Positive for the future, Paul?
I believe so. I think, listen to the end of that last call, I certainly need to strengthen. We've got maybe 4 or 5 players that would challenge and maybe play in the first team, but we certainly need a bit more pace in the team. We're lacking that. I mean, we haven't blown the league away, but I think everyone expected we'll go through the season unbeaten and crazy things like that at the beginning of the season, but we bounced back. That was the objective. I think we need to definitely strengthen, and I agree with you, 17th would be perfect, but we don't want to be in a relegation battle next season, so give us 15th, 16th, 14th, somewhere around there where we're comfortable all season and get back to playing decent football.
Because, Shay Given, Newcastle fans will look at quite a lot of teams in the Premier League, and I know size, it doesn't mean you automatically win games, but they will look at probably most of the teams in the bottom half of the Premier League and think, well, we ought to be beating them because we're Newcastle.
Well, ought to be, yeah, but it's easier said than done. But, it's for all Newcastle fans and anyone with any connection to the club, for them to be back in the Premier League. You look around the stadium tonight, 52,000 people. Every Premier League player wants to go up and play in that stadium. It's a phenomenal place to play, and the atmosphere, as it's shown tonight, was fantastic. But it's not going to happen overnight. It'll all depend on who they bring in the summer and how much they got to spend. I mean, if Mike actually gets his checkbook out and gives Rafa what he wants, then they'll be top half of the league. But if it's budget buys and free transfers, then it's going to be another struggle next season.
Beth says, and the party begins. Reckon there's going to be a few sore heads tomorrow. What a great night. Sam, we now need 11 new players at best. We have 4 players who are okay to take to the Premier League. Rafa needs to buy. Ian Dennis, do you think, as much as we're talking about spending money, it's also about a control of who identifies and brings in the players, which there were rumours that became another point of disagreement in the January transfer window?
No, I actually think that I don't think there's a discord behind the scenes. From my understanding, Graham Carr, who's Newcastle's chief scout, gets on perfectly well with Rafa Benitez. I think there was a period in January where maybe Rafa had his wings clipped. I think he was keen on trying to bring in another person, maybe such as Andros Townsend. That didn't happen. But I think he towed the party line. And I'm led to believe that recently as well, there is sort of like been it's quite amicable in terms of should Newcastle get promoted, which of course they have tonight, where they're heading. Now, whether that changes over the coming weeks and months, only time will tell. But certainly I'm not led to believe that there's a problem with that issue.
How did you send that tweet, Shay Given? Did you put your phone up?
Magic.
Tweet whilst we were having a chat. Anyhow, Shay Givens just tweeted, congratulations to everyone at Newcastle, back in the Premier League where they belong.
Tweeted that 10 minutes ago.
Did you? Well, maybe my Twitter's behind everything else. Quickly to Andrew, Newcastle fan. Evening, Andrew.
Evening, Mark. You all right?
Yeah, positive, celebrating?
Absolutely. A big weight's been lifted off our shoulder. We've had a lot of pressure on with this season right from day one. We've been the team to beat. Yes, at times it's been hard, but the objective was to go up, and it's phase 1 of the revolution done. Phase 2 starts now. I don't agree with people who say we need 11 players. That's absolute garbage as far as I'm concerned. There's, a world-class manager like we've got can make average players into good players, and that's not to say we don't need to strengthen. We absolutely do. But I'm really optimistic about the future. I don't think Rafael want to just be happy with surviving. I think he really want to push this club on.
All right, thank you very much for your call. Matt Ritchie said to television afterwards, it's been a bit tense, but we always believe. Disappointing not to be top of the league. Hopefully we can win Friday and put Brighton under a little bit of pressure. Being a bit tense kind of sums up the season, I suppose, Steve Stone, finally, doesn't it? Because of the expectations.
Well, it does, and that is what you've got. It takes a certain type of player, and she'll tell you this, to actually be able to play for Newcastle United in front of these fans when things are not going well. The brave players who try and get on the ball and try and make things happen when things aren't going right. And Matt Ritchie's certainly one of them. It has been a tense season. It hasn't always went great for them. They haven't always put in the best performances. But as Shea said earlier as well, it's also players want to come here and they want to set out the stall to try and think, this is a massive game for us in the Championship. This is the big game of the season. Steve and Shea, thank you very much. Andy and Dennis as well. Phil Williams follows at 10:30.
The National Police Chiefs Council said today that groups, paedophile hunter groups basically, who pose as children online to trap paedophiles, aren't helping cases. We will speak to Dark Justice tonight, who go out and do precisely that. And they say that actually they are, and the police help them to do it.